What's up, Cody? Good to see you. Gonna wait for a couple more people to show up. There we are. Finally, it's on over there. Cheetos. Welcome to the Daily Simulation Talk. Just wait just a little longer for some people to show up. Good girl. What's up, Mother Loves Cakes? Good to see you. Marina, Bobby. How you doing? Carly. Good to see you. Lisa. Welcome to the Daily Simulation Talk. My name is Danny, to all the newcomers, and I'm claiming that I've found proof that we live in a simulation. And we're here on the Daily to discuss the discovery, science in general, physics, philosophy, spirituality. What's your thoughts on Somasei's attack on Zanzibar land? Was it justified? Did they? I don't know enough about it. If you want to tell me what happened, maybe we can think about it. Okay, awesome. All right, we have a good uptake right now. Welcome everybody. Good, Victor. We're in agreement. We can rest. Welcome to the Simulation Talk. My name is Danny, and I am claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. We meet here on the Daily to discuss the phenomena, the discovery, the experiments, and science in general, including all kinds of new developments, physics, spirituality, philosophy, and so on. Cal, how are you doing, brother? He said it's a waste of space and money. They have not pushed the edge of human limits. Who is he? What are you talking about? Also, I was almost a little bit discouraged today when I was browsing throughout the day and I saw this live of a taco truck that had 5,000 viewers live. It's insane. So I decided maybe we should maybe we should open a taco truck. Doing great, Cal. Good to hear from you. All the newcomers, welcome. So, yesterday we had a good, lengthy discussion about religion. Oh, here's Matthew. How are you, Matthew? And it was a lively and wonderful discussion. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Matthew, for that. Not sure what directions we're going to embark on today, but we'll find out. There's a few. Oh, 1 second. I had rice for the doggy on the stove. Got to make sure that it stays there. Someone sent me a Chilaquila video, Koreatown. Definitely going to check it out. What is a Chilaquila video? Oh, I'm a moron. Oh man, it's really funny. Yeah, it's crazy. They had like 5,000 views on a moment-to-moment basis. It's insane. I mean, it's incredible that TikTok allows for that. That is amazing. And it's actually a taco truck that I know, funny enough. It's the one in Hollywood. It's really good. Welcome, everybody. So, welcome to the daily simulation discussion. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found proof to believe in a simulation. We meet here on the daily to discuss science, philosophy, religion, spirituality, philosophy, and whatnot. Recently, today, I've been watching this really interesting conversation between Roger Penrose, Bernardo Kastrup, and spacing on his name. The guy who, I think he invented transistors, something that gave rise to the ability to create modern computers. So it's a really interesting conversation about the fundamentals of physics, and at least there's quite a few points of disagreement, but at least some of them. It's lovely that they agree on the fact that consciousness has to be, to some degree, fundamental, embedded in reality to some degree. And of course, that is my view. So it was cathartic to an extent, but also it's interesting to see the nature of the disagreements that are very fine grained. By the way, another thing, because I was kind of going through lives to see like what's out there, and don't worry, I'm not going to be changing anything about my style. If whatever I'm doing people like, then it will grow. I'm fine with that. But it's just funny to watch what a contrast there is between existing content. Welcome everybody, and a lot of it is kind of people from what seems a third world country. They're doing just like all kinds of weird things, and it is a little bit kind of like Dance Monkey Dance, which is to some degree, like my initial reaction was like, this is sad. But on the other hand, hey, if it allows them to make money, that's amazing. That's incredible. It's just I wish it would be, maybe like showing us their village, and then that's what the Westerners would want to consume. But apparently, no, they just want people to kind of like be clowns. In any case, today I had a day that was filled to the brim with things to do, and the puppies didn't help. So I kind of came ill prepared as far as the topic. So if you guys want to raise a particular topic, that would be great. If not, I'm just gonna probably dive a little bit deeper into what I heard so far in conversation with Roger Penrose, which was interesting. By the way, I finished watching that conversation that I mentioned on the TOE podcast with. Actually, there was two women professors that one of them proposes a new experimentation field, basically, to probe into the idea that essentially gravitational effects actually take place in quantum states. It's just that we don't interpret it as that, and there's a way to actually measure that, which will be fascinating for years to come. Can you summarize your channel? Thank you, D. Sully. Yes, this channel, my name is Danny, and I claim that I actually found proof to believe straight up in a simulation, not quite like in the Matrix, but a computational space. I discovered that if you project a diffracted laser on a surface and you ingest a particular molecule that I cannot name on this channel, you will see code running in surfaces. This observation is now being replicated over 1,000 times worldwide, and I'm in contact with some leading researchers in the field. And we're meeting here on the daily to discuss both the discovery of the phenomena and also science in general, philosophy, spirituality, religion, and all the things that arise from these ideas. So that will be give or take summation. Hopefully that does the trick. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. And what's up, Mazalev's case? By the way, I don't know if you Mazalev's cakes. I don't know if you ever told us about. You said you did, but you said there were a bunch of synchronicities. So can you tell us about one of the recent ones since you started watching the channel? It might be on an extremely small level for gravitational wave were difficult to detect. Yeah, well, she proposes that gravity is an actual, not only that it has an associated particle, but that particle is actually massive. So not massive as in bigger than other particles, but it has mass. So gravity itself has mass is the proposition, which is not a new idea, but she found a new way to probe into this idea. And she essentially talks about I guess heuristically, you can think of it as a vector flip when you get over to a certain size of gravity. So it behaves a certain way on a certain scale, then it behaves another way on another scale, and then it behaves again differently on a much vaster scale, which is very interesting. That's fascinating, but I wonder if human constructed claims can ever touch ultimate reality. Well, I think that the biggest uh, misconception we developed with the scientific revolution is, and which I'm a huge fan of, is that somehow consciousness and the human mind are secondary and secondary at best, somewhere like in the back of the bus, when in reality that's the only thing you can actually establish with absolute certainty. So I would say that the human mind is part of reality, no matter what you believe about fundamental reality. So if it has any probe into a portion of reality, there's no reason to believe that given enough time and given enough computational power and enough innovation, you wouldn't have access to more fundamental reality. Put me on the team. In terms of graviton, the spin 2 boson, no, she proposed something slightly different. So if you go to the TOE podcast, Theories of Everything podcast with Kurt Jaimungal, I think it's the second to last episode if you want to check it out. What two element bismuth? And so far, bismuth is my main candidate. And combined with electric, with the magnetic field, powerful magnetic fields, that's the proposition. The next part of the experiment. But maybe you're referring to something else, Zealophile? You want to tell me specifically what you mean? Einstein imagined his experiments. Exactly. Well, all scientists imagine their experiments. Let's just start there. So I think that a lot of, it's very common in especially in the more advanced sciences, or at least in the more advanced physics circles, it's very common to say that unless you know the math, there's no way you can understand what in fact is going on, which is true to a degree. But I think ultimately the overarching story of what's going on is part of the construct, right? So I agree that it's nowhere written that nature has to be simple enough that our current brains should be able to wrap itself around it. It's maybe nature is way more complex than what the current mind of the human can do. But because I do believe that the trajectory we're on with knowledge is truly infinite, we can eventually get there by understanding what parts we're missing, either in terms of senses or in terms of mental capabilities, and um, then we can develop these tools. So it will just like we build external tools, just like when we build external devices to measure things, we can incorporate things more into our actual experience, and I believe that would be one way to go. But I would agree that one of the reasons that we're maybe capped with how high we can go with our understanding is because we keep sweeping the observer and consciousness under the rug, which we cannot keep doing, essentially. You had mentioned getting a suggestion by entities to refract laser through bismuth and another element. Yeah, no, it was mostly bismuth. I said that I'm going to try with a few more elements, but bismuth is the main candidate at the moment. I'm kind of brushing up on my chemistry, and because I need to understand a few of these things, and so I'm investigating it from all kinds of perspectives, both in terms of. So today, one of the things that kind of came on my radar was hexadecimal numbers, which I don't know why I never thought about like in incorporating in this, because they are utilizing computation a lot, and I am seeing hexagonal structures inside of the laser. So it would be interesting to investigate and to see if we can maybe come up with some framework that will help us. There's a few individuals that, again, I don't know if they want to be mentioned, that are kind of like adjacent to what I'm doing, and they communicate with me and they tell me all kinds of new ideas that they have. And some people are working on potentially pretty wild ideas, potentially maybe even developing some tools for like levitation and things like that. Again, this is, to me, it's kind of like the number of attempts to do this kind of stuff is so enormous, and the number of successes is basically zero in that, like, more advanced kind of like playing with these like half esoteric, half physical elements. We'll see if something comes out of it. It will be amazing. But yeah, I know how difficult it is to make progress. So that's fascinating. What I want to. Oh, you said that. So I read that already. Well, there's always a room for more particles on the standard model. Actually, the standard model is pretty complete, um, including with like, especially if you include some supersymmetry, right? The only thing is missing at the moment is the graviton. Higgs boson was what was missing before the graviton. Now we have that. I think we're only missing the graviton, if I'm not mistaken. Einstein was always good at math. Uh, Wait, let me remember. I read his biography. He was all right. He was not a good mathematician. Like, he was not like a mathematician. He wasn't a Gödel. Let's just put it that way. Obviously, he needed to know some math, but he wasn't on a level of someone like Gödel. But he and in fact, in order to solve the field equations, he needed. Apologies today, my brain is a little slow. Who's the guy that was in the war? He's a really known scientist too, that solved the field equations. So he needed him to actually solve them. Einstein never didn't think that it's going to happen in his lifetime. In fact, opinion on the quantum nature of antimatter. Well, thank you for the question, Phil. I'm not sure what you mean by that, because in quantum physics, everything is quantized. So the nature of everything is quantum. In that it's all quantized. All of it is made out of these appearances in quantum fields that we call like particles or quanta. And antimatter is another thing we know for sure exists. But you probably meant something more specific by your question. So if you don't mind rephrasing it, I would love to answer. What do you think about Nassim Haramein? Very interesting guy. Or Garrett Lisi. Garrett Lisi, yeah, the eight. I like Garrett Lisi. I like his style and everything, but I don't know enough about Lie groups in depth. E8 is to anybody who doesn't know, it's essentially part of it's a symmetry structure, part of a group called the Lie groups, which are essentially sets of symmetrical transformational groups. So what this means in simplest terms possible is that if you have a cube and the cube is facing this way, okay. So if you have one side that is red, one side is orange, whatever. So you can then talk about transformations of different kinds of the cube, right? So uh, spinning the cube on different axes would be types of transformations. So like if you spin it this way, it's one type of transformation. This is another type of transformation. And then you can calculate these, like the matrix of all the sets of all the transformations of the cube in any possible way. And the mathematics that is used to do that, like on a very advanced level, they use something called Lie groups, which are very particular kinds of symmetries of transformations. And E8 is an interesting shape because, let's see if I remember this. It's a projection. It's an 8-dimensional shadow. Wrap your mind around that, of a larger dimensional object. I don't remember how many. I think the ultimate object is like 256 dimensions or something. I'm for sure not getting the number right, but it's like 200 something dimensions. And then there's a mathematical transformation you can do to downgrade it to like a lower dimensional shape, and then you can project it into like an 8-dimensional shadow, and that 8-dimensional shadow is the E8. If you Google E8, it's a very interesting shape. It kind of looks like a very complex mandala. And Garrett Lisi is a physicist who rests very heavily on E8 to try and answer kind of like to create a fundamental theory of everything. If I remember correctly, in the recent interviews, he said that he kind of jumped off that idea. I mean, he still uses it, but I don't think it's central to his idea anymore. These shapes are very beautiful. If for nothing else, these things are fascinating. And Nassim Haramein is obviously a very interesting guy. I love people who think like, not like the rest of the science practice. Fractal holographic universe guy. No. So, well, he talks about it, but it's definitely that's not his theory. The holographic principle is by, well, there's a few people developed it, but originally the idea was uttered by Leonard Susskind. He had a bet with the wow, sorry, my brain is like he had a bet with Stephen Hawking about how the problem of data of information being destroyed in a black hole is going to be resolved. They actually bet a year subscription to Playboy, which is very funny. And both of them were wrong, but because the prediction of both of them didn't come true. However, Stephen Hawking didn't one better, and he actually came up with a solution. So I guess he won, and this way he came up with Hawking radiation, which essentially says that black holes do radiate, and this is what solved the problem of where does the data that goes into a black hole disappears, because technically energy, i.e. information, cannot be destroyed. But he said no, black holes actually radiate, so they radiate the information back into the universe. And part of that idea, spin on that idea, was then when Leonard Susskind was to postulate that you can actually project, you can collect all the data that the black hole collected on the event horizon on a two-dimensional sphere. So then the idea was, well, what if this is exactly where we are? So we are a three-dimensional projection from a two-dimensional surface on the edges of the universe, and that's the holographic principle. But that's definitely Leonard Susskind. There's a lot of people talking about it. Nassim Haramein is talking about it, but it is definitely not his theory. Roger Penrose and Hemroff's microtubules, yes. That's actually one of the things that we were talking about recently. Was it was semi-vindicated, this experiment with the microtubule. There was an experiment that kind of semi-vindicated what Penrose is talking about with the microtubules with Hemroff. Have you ever heard of black holes Big Bang theory? Yeah, of course. Why do you ask? Oh my God. A moist critical. That's something you don't usually expect on a chat about science. The idea our universe is insane. Oh, wait. The idea our universe is insane of a black. Oh, yeah. It's very neat. That way, you have like an evolution of all the universes. Have you heard of ley lines? Sounds familiar. Hold on. Ley lines. Straight alignment down between various structures. Oh, whoop. Oh, so it's kind of like landmarks all over the world. Whoa, what just happened? Oh my God. Today, everything. I don't know what. Okay, now I only see the chat. Oh, there we go. Apparently, I didn't know this. Like, apparently, I can see the chat like big. There you go. How are you, Nolan? Actually, that's even better. It's easier to read. Definitely Susskind. Yep. Would you consider extended state to gather more info and test our play with console? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was trying to sign up for the one in. To anybody who doesn't know, the extended state, these are experiments that are done in the Imperial College in London, and now also going to start in San Diego, in which they do the molecule intravenously, and then they study, the phenomena. What's interesting about this particular umbrella of the study is that it does not ask the therapeutic question, but asking the ontological question. It's directly asking, wait a second, is the molecule space a real space? And yes, absolutely. And in fact, I spoke with, I originally tried to sign up for the one in Colorado, but as far as I know, they still haven't done anything. I know some people involved with the Imperial College study. It's pretty far though. And I am in contact with John Dean, the guy who's going to be running it in San Diego. So who knows? Maybe I'll be a part of it. We'll see. Lee Smolin has a black hole natural selection theory. It is it is based on. Thank you, Alyssa. It's based on the holographic principle as well. It is a principle that a lot of things are, and that's essentially what it entails. It's exactly that, a natural selection of through black holes. and then you have this element, basically kind of like just like you have genetic evolution. Yeah, you have universal evolution through black holes, in which the black holes kind of scramble the laws of physics a little bit and gives rise to many, many, many other universes inside of the black holes that are slightly different than the parent universe, which is very neat, actually, and very organic. I like it. Leslie Codes is saying, greetings, programs. Yes, we need to discuss the console, Danny. Okay, let's talk about the console. What about it? And Mandalov's cakes. I'm still waiting for you to tell us about one of your recent synchronicities. I am curious. How do you think the universe is likely to end? If it does end, I think it ends with something very, uh, very interesting. The closest thing that I kind of like combined from a lot of my visions is that ultimately, either you want to postulate that it's God or the most advanced civilization, they gather that one bit of information that tells them why everything exists. And then in that instance, when that knowledge gets instantiated in any mind inside of existence, in that instance, that mind kind of like becomes like, you can think of it as kind of like, you know, it starts cascading in all directions. I don't know in what speed. And that knowledge basically nullifies existence itself. That's the best I can think of. Hey, Tortron Max, binware. And by the way, today came to my awareness that a lot more people all of a sudden are experiencing the console, just so you guys know. So apparently there's an uptick at this. I have some people that always kind of like tell me about things that they see in chats and stuff. And one of my good buddies, he sent me a link that somebody's reporting the console. You've been praying. Yeah, brother. I again, I appreciate your care, but there's different ways to approach these things. And like I said, on this channel, the preaching thing we don't do. I'm trying to remember now. It's like how we forget dreams after waking. Wait. I'm trying to remember now. It's like I forget dreams after waking. I had the experiences. Gotta program you, bro. It's okay. You don't need to program me. I'm programmed fine. But now I can't recall the details. Yeah, it's kind of like how it's funny because it's kind of like how I'm going through my days now. I'm gonna let you do your thing, brother. You're a nice guy. You're welcome on this chat. Yeah, I'm kind of going through my days in the same way, where people ask me, like, what's new, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I didn't think of that. As someone is saying, is nullifying of existence a good or wait, a goal or purpose? No, I think it's the result of the fact of knowing that. It's almost like that one bit of information that God does not have, which is why, if God has it, God becomes perfect. And because perfect things cannot exist by definition, because they cancel themselves out, because they are the perfect version of everything, including all the oppositions, they cease to it. Reality, God, and therefore all reality also will cease to not just exist, but to have ever been existing. So it retroactively cancels everything that has ever happened. Is that no, definitely not an invite to preach, brother. I appreciate you asking. Again, you're welcome. I'm never gonna kick you out of this chat. You are a very nice guy. I appreciate it. But just remember, everybody has their own way, and I assure you that if the God you believe in is real, then it's communicating to everybody in the way that they understand. What's up, Oklahoma? What is this channel about? Amazing Game Malia. How are you? So this channel is mostly revolving around the simulation hypothesis, and I'm claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. And we're meeting here on the daily to discuss the discovery and science and religion and spirituality, physics, and so on. The Ubermensch is back. In a documentary, The Quantum Activist, they demonstrate non-local consciousness experiments. That's awesome. Do you think we are born with purpose, or is it up to us to make our lives purposeful? I think it's the latter. We make our lives purposeful. I mean, there is the ultimate purpose, probably, for whatever ultimate civilizations that have the plan for whatever reasons they run the simulations. But one of the terms of conditions when you enter when you become a part of a simulation is that nothing can decide about, like, nobody can decide the trajectory of your own kind of path inside of it. That's from what I understand. What's the likelihood that all of us are wildly off on all our speculations about these topics? Very high. All we can do is use the best tools in our disposal to postulate the closest thing to what we think it is, both conceptually and functionally. And the only way to verify is to test it. This is why science is so superior, because it tests things. People are very enamored with their own ideas, but and this is something I was saying yesterday, that it is kind of crazy to me that after 2 million years of hominid evolution, people still think of getting everything wrong all the time. People still have this something in their thought or genes that keeps telling them, no, 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 but you got it. Everybody were wrong till this day 100% of the time, but you got it. So this is why I always say, look, when I say simulation, I'm using the best tools available, which is like, we understand what computation is, we understand what the simulation is. That is the closest thing I can put it to what it actually is. What is the nature of the real thing? I don't think anybody can say. Yeah, we can enjoy the pursuit, absolutely. Let me see. Have you seen any thoughts? What do you mean? The Ubermensch? Wait, no, I have not seen the documentary. Do you think TikTok is just our ego? Well, the ego, I mean, people define ego in many different ways, but the ego is just basically the self-representation you have. It's the fact that you feel like a me. That's all it is. And again, people can define it in different ways, but the kind of like baseline definition of an ego is that the feeling you have that you are a self. Like, I'm here, I'm Danny, I'm doing this, I'm picking up a bottle. It's a functional tool that the mind made, so it knows the difference between itself and a soup. So it doesn't pour soup on its own head, so it can find things in space. But that's all it is. And the ego is obviously, TikTok is a representation of many, many, many selves. So it's our collective ego, I guess. I think X would be closer to that. But hi, am I Keanu Reeves? No, I'm not that nice. I hear he's really nice. Recently, I've heard some people saying he's not nice. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not buying it. It looks very nice. I also feel like I've found proof. Okay, tell us about it. She Who Plays. That is an interesting handle. Tell us about your proof. You seem like a cool person to take more. Yeah, I can be fun. I'm coming up plant a seed, brother. Jesus will water that. Whoa. Does Jesus know you talk like that? I feel like it's a sandbox type game with an overlaying story. Yes, I would agree with that. But do you have like a proof? I think often of a giant wombats that used to exist in what is not Australia. Okay. Some days people I know well look completely physically different to me. I hate not knowing answer. Why do you hate not knowing the answer? Stop pushing bullets. Oh, Phil, just so you know, Toretron Max he's a regular here. He's a harmless. He's a very nice guy. He truly is. He always means well, and he comes out of care. Uh, he's not the. I mean, he has these crazy ideas, but don't we all? But he's a nice guy, so he always hangs out, and we love him. Free will is an illusion. We are so heavily conditioned. So I think so. To the first part, yes, we are heavily conditioned. I think it's a slight misstatement of the situation. We're not conditioned. We are the condition. So it's not like you have some kind of a pure self, and then it's conditioned to this or that. You are the product of all your habits, the environment, everything basically. You are the condition, I would say. Now, let's see. I think. Wait, I don't understand the comment, Mandela's cakes. I think often of a giant wombats, which is adorable, that used to exist in what is now Australia. Okay, it was like what is not Australia. Okay, but what was it? Um, psychedelic compounds allow us. Psychedelic compounds allow us to experience simulation from another perspective. Yeah, I would say it allows us to experience the larger world. Not harmless at all. Well, to the extent that I've experienced in my life, brother, what I mean by that is that you mean well. But if you want to enlighten me differently, more than welcome to. And then we'll decide what's what. Because I dislike feeling other an answer I'm not sure of telling. Because I dislike feeling other. Wait, telling others. And I think you've been here before, right? Weren't you? Then you said a similar thing, or maybe I'm confusing you with someone else. I think that again, if I don't remember if it was you, but if it wasn't you, then somebody made a very similar comment. And what I said is that I think you have an obligation to speak on things that you have enough experience with, because you'll be surprised how many people uh, don't know certain things that you might actually be an expert in. So whatever your life experience allows you to know, you should speak about it in the most honest and coherent way you possibly can, because you'll never know. You might actually help somebody make some sense of something. And you can always be very honest about why you think you know something, or why you think you're suspecting something. And that should be enough to give you you know, the benefit of the doubt that you know that you're not always right, but you do have the knowledge that you do, which is also very important, because you are here, and literally no one in the entire multiverse has the exact experience you do. That's kind of wild. There is a biological genetic coded potential, then conditioned through our senses and experience. Uh, Again, I would not phrase it that way. So I would phrase it that your genes, the one level of emergence of information, the code for particular attributes of the physicality of your body, of certain attributes of the trajectory of your, moods and body over time, like many, many hardware things, right? And then you have the software, which is all the stuff that is running in your brain. And on top of that, you now have the cultural element, which is actually the higher, like that's a higher function where it allows for more complex behavior. And all of these things are just working in their layers. So when you say conditioned, it sounds like you're saying somebody's like conditioning you, like behind the scenes, trying to do. It's just you're a product of your environment, and in all the aspects. Basically, if you have lived every moment and second of another existence, then you would them. Most have free will until you become a servant, then it's fate and free will. Great, Tortron Max. Yeah, I don't. So we talked about free will quite a bit on this channel. My position is that you, not only that you don't have free will, but you can't describe a world, even in principle, in which you have one. All you have is the story of why you think you did something, which I guess you can call your choice. You can choose what things seem like, but the process will unfold as it will. Even if you add randomness into the picture, it doesn't get you out of that. Are there global hidden variables in simulation theory? You're talking about hidden variables like in physics? I still enjoy the pursuit. Yeah. Have you asked any large language models about these topics? Oh, yeah. I work with ChatGPT on this all the time. It's very interesting how much progress you can make. We are both the dreamers and the dream, just some of us remember and some of us, you mean, and some of us don't. Thank you for the comment. Yeah, it's a very poetic way of putting it. And some of us, maybe it's even more poetic. Maybe it's so poetic you don't even know. It's like, whoa. To your a Frank user, I'm assuming your name is Frank. So hidden variables, to anybody who doesn't know, it's a postulate in physics that states that nothing is truly random. Just like in quantum mechanics, you have the wave function is technically a deterministic structure. In this case, you have hidden variables that are influencing. They're called hidden variables because we can't measure them even in principles, in principle, and they are the ones that actually cause things to happen in our space that seem random, but they're not random. So this is obviously like a very gross oversimplification, but that's what it is. And in that sense, mm, I don't know. I don't know. I think that ultimately, whatever the ultimate answer is, which is what their ultimate simulators looking for, would have this flavor of causing itself, which is obviously a mind fuck. But love to see you laugh, bro. Always laughing, man. Always laughing. Free will may only be our choice of feeling and emotion of said event choice. Yeah, or yeah, how to really frame something. Which, by the way, is still like a big mystery even there. But what if this is the 1b to the a, what one, wait, 1b to the 1a, and that's it? They are running a mirror, which is what you found. I'm not sure what you mean by 1b to 1a. Can you explain that to me? Is that some technical stuff that I don't understand? What were the events that led you to this misunderstanding? It's a long story. You can watch some of my videos on this topic. They're pinned on top on TikTok. If you want the longer version that actually gives you some more specifics, you can find it on YouTube. Dango Thoughts. That's my channel. And you'll find the videos there. DANGO, 2 words, thoughts. And we're working on a documentary that's going to give a much bigger overview of what's going on. And it's going to be fascinating. And I'm going to release some trailers very soon. So look out for that. I'm very excited to share that with the world. One of the things I'm actually most excited about, I mean, if I have to be honest, yes, it is a kind of nice to get some recognition after so many years of just talking about it and feeling a little bit solo about it. But actually, the thing that I find very satisfying is to bring forth some of the really cutting edge ideas in that space by experts who devoted their lives to it. And this is also going to be in the film, so we're going to be talking to some experts, but we obviously didn't. It's not going to be like talking heads. It's going to be a very interesting film. Roundness is a strange concept. In many ways, it just seems like a description of imperfect knowledge rather than a phenomenon itself. Oh, we had a different comment before. Sorry. Hey, what's up, Dan? I sent you an email today. Did you get it? Hey, Sean. Yeah, I think so. I went through my Laser Simulation X email today. So if you sent it today, I definitely read it. If I haven't responded, that means that I will respond by tomorrow. Who are my heroes thus far? I don't know if I have heroes. There's just people that I really appreciate in the space because they kind of put their, uh, their academic name on the line. It's easy for someone like me to just talk because I don't have to pay a price for it. Andrew Gallimore is definitely one of them. John Dean, who's from San Diego, that doing the research in San Diego, is also one of them. It's no, academic achievement is not, you know, I think I'm not sure that's what you mean, but like academic achievement is not an impressive thing. It's just there's I know quite a few scientists, and I mean, obviously I don't retain any of them, but you'll be surprised how many academics you meet that they're just morons, like truly, like just morons. Like I'm not even exaggerating, and not like as an insult, like the actual definition of the word moron. Like just people that just like they just think like this, like they're incapable of thinking outside the box. I don't think there's a lot of true scientists in the world, and there are obviously, but there's not a lot of them. And I think the way that I define a true science, so there's the way I define it is that you have the majority of science is contrived of people that are just very fancy calculators. Now, it's very important to have these people, okay, because they kind of like the gatekeepers of rigor and you know, without them we wouldn't have any technologies because somebody has to do the perspiration part and like, you know, checking all the stuff and making sure that everything is according to like they check everything off the list. And this is most of the people that makes the academia in general, if you ask me. It's not just in science really. And then you have the true, like, you don't have to be like a Ed Witten or like somebody who's like, you know, an enormous genius. There are like people who are just like they a true scientist is someone who's just curious about the world. They happen to also learn the proper tools to deal with some of the more complicated things that we now understand about the world. You can't do proper physics. This is where people like Terrence Howard are basically going off the rails, because it's not that nobody's listening to them because they're saying something that endangers science, because they don't understand the space they walked into, right? So that's the problem. So true scientists are people who are just very curious about the world, but they also learned a lot of things to understand what we understand thus far. And then they innovate. These are true scientists, and they exist, but there's not many of them. Yeah, yeah, and John Dean is without the H, I think. Why the serpents innocent as doves? That's a good line. Won't give it myself, but thanks for trying. Only one reality, 1A, and they are extracting energy and info from us in 1B code. Oh yeah, I think they're definitely doing that. But that's just the greenest system we can possibly. So imagine just like in Rick and Morty, right? That Rick created these universes for Engine. But what you do is you just create infinite number of universes, and then you borrow a tiny bit of energy and computation power from each and every one of them. So just kind of like an infinity hotel, you get infinite amount of energy and infinite amount of computation with and at the same time you give rise to the possibility of other very interesting life forms. So it's the greenest system possible. It's actually not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. Only one thing. Oh, 1 second. For research purposes for myself, are you parents and wait. For research purposes for myself, are your parents and wait, are your parents analysts also? Oh, you mean my parents? No, my mom is a biologist, and my dad is he was a photographer. He retired a long time ago. 1 second, Tomatron Max. Just want to make sure that we'll go through a couple of these comments and I'll bring you up. Randomness is a strange concept. Oh, wow. My dyslexia is crazy. Before I read roundness is a strange concept, I was like, really? Now the sentence makes sense. Randomness is a strange concept. In many ways, it just seems like a description of imperfect knowledge rather than a phenomenon itself. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Scientist, a curious and open person who applies the scientific method in pursuit of understanding of the universe. Exactly. And I think that science in general should just be the enterprise of human understanding, period. And it should include any modality of thought as long as it leads to a rigorous understanding of the world and ourselves in it and whatever the connection is. So meditation is absolutely a science, because it's we observing what we're trying to study, which is the internal world, and then we're running tests with it. We're trying all kinds of things. Will spirit voxes take over AI? Wait, will spirit voxes take over? Because the apps and the phone are portals for spirit. Once we accept that this is a simulation, then so many questions arise. I know. This is why I didn't come up with it and never really liked the idea. I had to accept it because I stumbled upon the actual experiment. And if you're not familiar, basically I discovered that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you ingest a molecule that I cannot name here on the chat, you will see code running in surfaces, and you will see it 100% of the time. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you do, it will be there. I knew it was biology and photography again. You know everything, don't you, Torrential Max? Why, who, when, where, what, what's your theory on that? Oh, I think you asked it before I said what I said, right? Not sure if you touched on this or not, but curious on your take on jumping timelines. Well, if you believe in the many worlds interpretation, which I do, then you're not even jumping timelines. Like every instance is you basically moving through timelines. Sounds like both of your parents are both analytic and creative as both of their field demand. Maybe, even though I don't know how much of, so some of it might be genetic, but I think that I'm pretty different than both of my parents actually. Absolutely amazing, amazing Amalia. Jesus wrote the codes, bro. Uh, that's not what I see. Yes, sir. Love that perspective. He used the code and wrote the codes. Well, we had this conversation. I think the game is supposed to be fun, like an amusement park. I agree with that. Second to enter next. Couple more comments here, then I'll let you come on. Scientific, curious, and open person who apply the scientific method. We got that. Certainly agree with that. Then what do you think about your discovery being similar to people seeing the code of the Matrix in the movie? It's so something that I repeat quite often in the chat, so forgive me everybody who heard it before, but I think it's an important point. Not like in the movie, I always say it's the Matrix upside down. So in the movie, we're locked in a computer program and we're trying to get out into the real world, the base reality. In reality, my claim is the real world is the computational world. So it's upside down. This is just one tiny slice, one sliver of the larger computational space. Yes, in the second order, it gives codes from God. Definitely. And yeah, and in the model that I'm seeing, by the way, also it's an important point, she who plays, there is no base reality. It's all computational. So in that sense, simulation just means a slice of reality, basically. All right, let's see, Torrential next. What you got to say? Oh, I see. Mandalov's case. I see you like here next in line for viewers. Do you want to come on and talk about anything?
What's up, brother?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too. The Toretron Max. Where'd you get that image, by the way?
AI drew it.
Oh, that's very impressive, actually. Do you draw a lot?
No, I didn't draw it. I just told AI to draw it. I had to draw a bunch of different stuff.
Got it. Cool.
But it's not me, and it's not a person up there, and it's not like an icon like you would think. Like people got mascots or whatever. It's not that type of thing. It's Hold on a second.
It's amazing. This is a beautiful creation. We should treat the earth and each other better. Couldn't agree more. As my research so far, I believe we are fractals of a creator to play every part as you know all. Yeah, sounds pretty
Yeah,
legit.
it's not an icon. Like usually people put some kind of icon up there or whatever. It's actually technology. It's God's technology.
Wait, what icon? Sorry, you have to explain to
My
me.
image
Oh, I see, I
up
see.
there. It's God's tech. Yeah, tech.
Interesting. This robot in the image.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw something in your live. There's like everybody are entering the belly of the thing.
I put a lot of cool pictures up, but
Is it
I
kind of
use
like a protector? Is it kind of like the protector that kind of helps everybody survive?
it's actually a spaceship.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's 3 different sizes of them. But you know how they got like scout ships or whatever. If there were UFOs or whatever, you'd have smaller ones and then bigger ones, and then the mothership, the father ship, the freaking space station ship,
Mm-hmm.
all that. But that those are lower level. That's like mid-level UFO stuff right there. Real tech. And when I told it to draw it, it's almost like it already knew. That's why it made it look so good.
That's amazing.
Isn't that funny?
Is that what is that his name? The spaceship Toretron Max?
Um, no, that's my name.
Oh, got it. What is your actual name?
My actual name is Toratron Max, but I didn't know for my whole life. I thought my name was just Ron.
Oh, okay. And you discovered that when you had like an awakening or something?
Um, if you want me to break it down for you, I could. I was called Toretto my whole life from my friends. They just made it up from the Fast and Furious movies, right?
Okay. And not because you have Tourette's or anything.
No. They called me Toretto, right, my whole life. And then when I prayed to God and asked him what my name in the spirit is, he told me Toratron. And I was like, what the heck is a Toratron? All I had to do is put a Ron on that thing, and that's my name. And they already called me they called me Toretto the whole time. So all I had to do was put a Ron and a Max on that thing, dude.
That's dope, brother.
And that's I was called Ron my whole life, so that's pretty much like calling me. That's a short version of Toratron, right?
I like it.
You can Tron, Tor, or Ron.
Azamoon on YouTube is saying, "Yo, this is wild."
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's true. That's what makes it even greater.
That's why it's wild.
Mm-hmm. We need to talk more about these type of things.
Well, we are right now, right?
Yeah, dude, your viewership, dude, they're probably sitting there loving this right now, talking about stuff like this. Who talks about robots from God? What? And UFOs.
Robots from God sounds like a name of a movie or a band or a really, really cool bar.
Oh, they got leather chaps in that thing. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah. Is that thing you stole it from the Hawk 2 girl or?
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, it was started like
She-
that, but now it's just,
Dude,
it's
she
just everything.
she
Now. It's
she
so fucking
swept she
hilarious.
swept the nation. Was she a message from God?
It's got to be right.
She saw that is insane. That is amazing that the
bro.
world we live in is like. Didn't she get like a movie deal now or something?
Listen, God programmed that Hawk Tuah girl. Dude. He made her like that to be such a freaking sensation.
Yep.
So and he made us all the way that we are, man. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah. He also made that live the taco live with 5,000 people.
What taco?
Dude, I saw live today that they have 5.4 thousand people live every second, and it's just a taco truck. It's just like serving
No,
tacos.
they love watching.
It's amazing.
They love. You know what? Why they watch them? Because they're all starving, dude, and they sit there and watch them cook all day. That's the type of stuff people do on this platform. They shop because they don't have to leave the app. They go to the TikTok shop and buy a whole bunch of gadgets or whatever.
Yep.
Or they watch people eat all day. That's what they do. I'm done.
Oh, that'd be great if you can just order their, or maybe you can. I never didn't think of that. You can just order the taco from their truck, from like Uber Eats, and you just want to just watch them make it.
I wonder if the people that really go there watch it.
Oh, I'm sure. That's actually a taco truck that I know. It's really funny. It just came on randomly.
That's
I
probably
didn't
why
know
he's got so many people, because he's in the hood and he's telling them.
Yep. Very smart. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have Valerie wants to join. Let's see. What's up, Valerie? How you doing? How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm just trying to enjoy the last few minutes before my bedtime.
Oh, cool. Absolutely. Welcome.
Another work day tomorrow. So
Nice. Where are you in the country?
I'm in Georgia,
Oh, nice.
but I'm looking to move maybe in the next month or two, but I'm trying to get out of here.
Okay, where do you think of moving?
Well, I want to move to be closer to my parents, and I also want to live somewhere that's economical, good life quality, and just not here.
Okay, well, anywhere in the country, basically. Also, I just want to mention too, this she who plays us TikTok should be proof we are in a simulation. I mean, I would agree with that.
Maybe so. I don't know.
No, he was saying it probably to my comments about the taco truck and about the stuff that people love.
Sorry, I wasn't looking at the comments.
The what?
I wasn't looking at the comments. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
I mean, I don't know. How was everybody's day?
Oh, great! Thank you for checking in. Another comment I really love from us that people are, Dan is bridging the gap of deep scientific exploration and schizo internet madness on one live stream.
Okay, so I think the comments. I think my cellular service is slower, and comments come in slower, so I don't see them.
Okay.
So I didn't see the simulation thing.
Oh no! This is what do you mean?
After you said
it. What simulation thing? Oh, you mean like the whole point of the channel? Comment. Oh, no problem. You're still more than welcome to hang out. We're talking about the simulation theory. I'm claiming that I found proof that we live in a simulation, and people have different interpretations of it. Toretron Max here, his interpretation is Jesus Christ, and many different people have different interpretations.
Everybody has a different interpretation, and I go on a deep dive every now and then into some conspiracy theories, but I think a lot of them are just Joe Rogan stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but okay.
No, it's a guy that does podcasts.
No, I know who Joe Rogan is. Okay. I don't know what Joe Rogan stuff means.
I just kind of have a bias against him.
Oh, got it. Okay, now I understand.
I'm just he's probably a cool dude in person. I just don't care for him.
You don't like his baldness?
That's not what I don't like about him.
I got it. All right. The Tron man coming.
Like how he tries to get a bunch of. No, what? Never mind. I'm not going to go into it.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. Well, is there anything? Do you have anything to say in regards to the simulation theory? Did you ever think about that?
No, not really.
All right.
Can you tell me something about it? Because I don't know anything about it.
Well, I discovered that if you project a laser on the surface, it has to be a diffracted laser, and you ingest a particular molecule that I cannot name here, you will see code running in surfaces 100% of the time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah.
I forgot about it.
There you go.
It's just not something that is anything that I have had to think about before, but it kind of blew my mind. But at the same time, if I can't experience it, I can't comment on it. Right.
Well, that there you nailed it. If you didn't experience it, there's nothing you can comment on it. That is exactly right, and that is why people kind of miss that point sometimes. People wake up to this. It's life changing. I've seen it. Don't need to fear death. Let's see what we have here. Mendel's Cakes. I believe it just play in this space now. Yeah. So okay, guys. So I'm gonna if we have any, thanks for the gift to Toretron Max. If you have anything else to say, please say it. Otherwise, we'll continue with our rants.
Something really messed up happened next to my house today. If y'all want to hear about it.
If it's really messed up and interesting, go ahead.
Somebody got hit by a train.
That is insane. What?
I know. I was like, what the hell? And I was trying to go back to work from lunch, and there was just a dead person on the train. Okay.
Damn. All right. Well, it's pretty heavy. How do you feel?
R.I.P. Prayers to him and his family, but what the hell?
Hey, Grippitos. Yeah, I see you, and I'll bring you up. I just have. It's gonna be a mess if we have 3 people. So the second anybody drops, I'll put you up. Thanks to Intro Mix. Yeah. So
What's the question, Grippy Tees?
the
I'm sorry.
I think you wanted to come on. Hold on. I think there was one. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring one more person, and then after that, we're gonna give it another 5 minutes of back and forth, and then I'll continue with my rant. So go ahead. What's your question, brother?
Can you repeat that thing you said about the code?
What I discovered a few years ago is that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you ingest a particular molecule that I cannot name, you will see code running in surfaces, and this is reproducible, and there's now over 1,000 replications of this worldwide. And aside from that, there's a lot of actual hints coming from the physics community that it's much more likely that the world at bottom is computational. That's a much more complicated subject, but that's essentially most of the stuff that we discuss here on the daily. The what?
Diffracted laser.
Yeah, it simply means that it has a like a diffracted band. So just when you scan a barcode in a supermarket, that's a diffracted laser.
Okay. So what kind of numbers do you see? Like 0?
It looks actually, well, it's the closest it seems is kind of like Japanese characters, just like in the movie, and numbers between 0 to 5. It seems something like that. So it's not exactly, but it's the closest it looks like.
And physicists are confirming this?
The what? Sorry?
Are physicists and scientists confirming this?
It's a long way before you put this in labs, but I am in contact with some leading researchers who will potentially soon put it through a double blind. So yeah, but my claim is that when people see it for themselves, they don't really need a grant. They just immediately know it's real because of certain attributes of it. Now, if science wants to deal with it, then obviously it's going to have to go through a much more rigorous process. But that's where it is at the moment. Yeah. And I am working with a couple of physicists to try and instantiate some of these things in a more rigorous framework.
So here's my question, though. So simulated or non-simulated, like what difference does it make to us?
No difference in terms of experience. You're absolutely correct. What it does change, however, in ultimate terms, is that if it is the case and we can see the code, which means we can interact with it in any way, eventually there's a postulate that it will be possible to maybe do more than what we otherwise will be able to do without being aware of the source code.
Interesting.
I mean, that's pretty heavy. I feel like nothing controls me but myself.
Oh, nothing is controlling you. It just, what a simulation means, so simulation does not mean fake or controlling. It just means that the fundamental element of reality is computational before the laws of physics. And that's actually not a new idea. This idea has been around for quite some time in the physics community. It's just a
interview by Robert Cohen, and he was interviewing a mathematician. Well, that's what he said is if you reduce down the reality around us, all you see is mathematics.
You're talking about Max Tegmark.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, mathematical universe. So yeah, but computation is a little bit different than fundamental mathematics. But yeah, that's so the idea is really not new. And just to make it clear, Valerie, it's not that you are being controlled like a puppet or that you are fake. It doesn't mean any of these things. It just means that simulation just
religion and God come into all of this.
So this is something that this is where we go back and forth with people like Toretron-Max, right? That you have this open question, which to Toretron-Max is not an open question. It's a decisive thing, but for me, it's an open question because you have, from what I'm seeing, you have these two possibilities, which is either you have this all-powerful God somewhere at the top, and it, I don't know if I want to call it he or she, but it is running all the possible simulations. And to us, it seems like this technological thing. Or you have a very advanced civilization that is actually running these simulations. And inside of these simulations, you would have the motifs and the elements of things like religions and gods and things like that, because you would want some kind of a quote unquote policing force in between the channels, so you don't have too much chaos happening. So both of these are possible, but
It's funny you say that. You use the word policing.
yeah,
That's exactly what them angels are doing.
do you mean like the angels that are, you believe, that are here?
Yes,
I see.
they're policing that thing.
Wait, do you believe that the UFOs are the angels, by the way? Out of curiosity.
They're called the mystery of the flying rolls. They're very well documented, especially in the Word of God.
Interesting.
I believe the UFOs are jinns.
They can be. There's two different kinds. There's ones that pretend they don't really have the power anymore. They used to. They're fallen, so they can manifest, but it's not for real. And then you got the other side, which are angels that still have the power and the access to that type of stuff. So they're coming around to smoke them things.
I'm gonna have to look into this more because all of this is new information to me.
Oh, this is new information in general.
It's police again, dude. It's cops, dude. I'm remixing that song. Bad boys, what you going?
I mean, my education. I've done many years on my education, but none of it was in physics or anything like that.
What was your education in?
Master's in business and marketing.
Well, that's an important skill in this world.
Yeah, but it's all business. It's not, theoretical or
Well, nobody
science
said
and math.
that's amazing. Nobody said the theoretical somehow is more important than the nitty gritty stuff that we need here.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that was not where my focus was, so I don't understand
Sure.
as much as someone who has studied it.
So this is actually a great challenge to try and explain in a couple of sentences. The most broad level you need to know is that, well, first of all, the idea that the world is computational at bottom is not new. This goes back all the way to Wheeler, which was a famous physicist almost 100 years ago, and it arises from the fact that computation itself, which is different than computers. Computers are basically just physical instantiations of the process of computation. But the postulate is computation, for what it is, the process of computation is actually as fundamental as the laws of physics. So it is a law of physics. It's not arising from the laws of physics. It is a law of physics. So that's kind of like the high level that you need to know to, kind of start playing with these ideas. And, the extent to which you want to understand, you will obviously have to go and look into details. And good people to look on the subject is the whole idea of the computational universe. There's so much stuff out there, but I would say start with I would start with the idealism, honestly, before I would start with that, because the idealism is the idea that consciousness is fundamental and then everything is constructed on top of it. And this idea is actually not as esoteric as one might think. It's actually at this point it seems like it would hold.
Did you say consciousness is fundamental?
Fundamentally,
Is that
yes.
what you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I said. So I would check out someone like Bernardo Kastrup, Kastrup. He's a very smart guy, double PhD, and he definitely understands the technical stuff as well, and he talks about this stuff very coherently. So I would start there. That it's also an interesting line of research.
All right. Well, I'm probably going to look into it. I understand technical stuff, but I've never studied physics or it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying I don't get it.
Okay. Well, then again, different people have different dispensations, and different people understand different things for a reason. We need everybody. We need people to know how to do our taxes, and we need people that knows how to build rockets. So we need all of it.
Yeah, and we need people to answer our phones and do all the work for you, which is what I do.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you for your service.
I'm just teasing.
I know. Okay. Awesome. So let's see.
Well, I mean, If I had a pen and paper next to me, I would have written all that down, but I can't. So,
Like written what down?
It's-
I just gave you one last name. You
I
can.
know.
Yeah.
What was the last name? It was KAS.
TRUP. You will find it. If you just Google that, you will find it. KASTRUP. Kastrup.
Gotcha.
TRUP.
All right.
Kastrup.
Sweet.
Amazing. And then please come back and I'm sure that you will stay for the chat if you're not going to sleep, but maybe you will. But please come back to the chat and tell me what you thought about some of the stuff that you said.
I'm not going to sleep quite
Oh,
yet.
okay,
Unless
got
you
it.
want me to
Okay.
leave.
Oh no. I thought you said you were going to sleep right before when you came on.
I'm going to sleep soon, but not right this second.
Got it. Okay, so let's see. We have let's give it one more. So far we have a pretty good flow going, so it's okay. I'm trying to keep it at a certain, but let's see. Joseph wants to come on and say something. Let's have Joseph on. Today we're doing like a live show. I've never done this before. This is awesome. What's up, Joseph?
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I had a question about
Welcome.
what you were talking about. You said diffracted. I don't know if you meant diffracted or refracted.
No, I meant diffracted. Yeah, in my first video, I actually misspoke and said refracted, but what you need is diffraction.
And you were saying that you were able to see some type of symbols on the top of the soil that you were on.
Yeah, if you ingest a particular molecule and you project this laser on the surface, you will see code. It's not just me. I mean, I started sharing because I shared it with a bunch of people, and everybody started seeing the same thing, which is unheard of in that space.
Well, my question was, these symbols, were they just a bunch of just thousands or millions of different symbols, or were there actually some of them that were consistent and would show up? The same symbols would show up each time.
Same ones. The closest I can say is that they kind of look like kind of like in the movie, actually, weirdly enough. So they kind of look like Japanese katakana combined,
Okay.
but it looks more like alien language. But that's the closest I can describe it as. Yeah.
Did you write any of these down or draw any of these?
It's very difficult because there's millions of them, like you said, and they move very fast. But it's almost like induced dyslexia because there's so much going on. But I had a couple of artists that reproduced them. Yeah, and it's going to be in the documentary that I'm working on right now.
Okay. Well, one thing I was gonna comment on also was the universe being explained through mathematics. To me, mathematics is a post language.
Post language.
After.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, mathematics is used to describe what you already have. You are not. I have not found anything other than a bunch of hypotheses that, like Einstein's theory of relativity and the other stuff that is unproven. That those things that anytime that they try to use mathematics as a language, that it just in other words, if you take a group of the world's greatest physicists, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you put them in a room with all of and they know nothing about radio, you put them in a room with a pencil and piece of paper, and they can have the things, your transistors, your resistors, your diodes, and everything else, and tell them that mathematically come up with a radio before they make it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be able to do it.
Well, I would say that's the difference between physics and mathematics, right?
Well, I mean,
I agree with you. I mean, 1, 2, 3, whatever you have to have that. I mean, that's just counting. But then negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. What the hell is that?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of them try to confound the people because the majority of the people do not know any of those mathematics. I mean, I'm going to say probably maybe 1% of the United States. So the rest of them are just like, oh yeah, that looks really good. That looks really cool. Writing all that stuff up on a chalkboard like that. But in reality, when you get down to it again, they would not be able to create a radio with their mathematics and their calculations or anything
Their math
else.
is wrong, guys.
Like, what good has AP Calculus done for me in my life after 12th grade? Nothing.
So I
It's
have
a trap.
the opposing view of that. So I think that I think mathematics is independent of the cosmos. I don't think mathematics is contingent on. I mean, there is a correlation. There is a correlation between mathematics and the natural world, but I can conceive of 2 + 2 = 4 still being true independent of the Big Bang.
So somebody, guy, before we let me just interject for 1 second, and then I'll let you keep going, because somebody already said the war on science won, which is hilarious. So, so just, I don't know if you guys know this, but so when you're talking about like studying like mathematics, like, you know, like theoretical, like pure mathematics, there's very little numbers involved. What you're actually studying is kind of like linguistics. So you're studying the sets of possible relationships, right? So mathematics is essentially the we're not talking about the symbols. We're talking
In the
about
beginning was what? The
word, bro.
It's language again.
Right.
All right, let's go.
Right. So that's a set of relationships, right? And there are certain sets of relationships that are so fundamental that they seem to arise no matter what you do, what substrate you use, no matter what, right? And yeah, you get to a point where, like, in theoretical mathematics, you have like elements of like infinite dimensional spaces, things that on the surface seem to like not be connected with reality at all. But surprisingly, for example, Cantor came up with set theory, which deals with the relationships between different infinities. Apparently, there's different types of infinities, and they're not all the same. And you would think that something like that would never have any connection with the physical world. But in fact, we use his math all the time to send rockets to space. So there's something about, it's called an unreasonable efficacy of mathematics. And nobody really understands fully why that is, but for some reason, mathematics tracks reality to a staggering degree. So aside from like tallying things, which is like basic things, right, just putting numbers on it, then you have the relationship between like angles of things and geometry and fractals and all that good stuff. Eventually, you get to a point where you start to understand that these pure relationships might actually be somehow fundamental elements of not just what the world is doing, but what your mind is doing in relationship to the world. So now I understand completely that, it takes some doing to try and understand these things. But to your point, Joseph, about the people who built the radios, the people who built the radio originally, I assure you that these were people that are very good at math. That's because in order to understand some of these relationships, I mean, obviously it has to be coupled with testing with the world, right? But certain things you can discover about the world without mathematics. Like if you throw a spear this way, it will land that way. Okay, I can teach my son how to do that better and better and better and better and better. But you actually cannot build a radio. There's no way you can do that without knowing some math.
Well, that's not true exactly, because the first radio that was created, I can't remember the man's name over in Russia, and he was not doing mathematics at all. He was soldering, putting the diodes and different things together, and he noticed that off at a distance that every time the lightning would strike, there was a storm coming up, and every time the lightning would strike, he would get static in his little speaker that he had made.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that is where radio came into being, but it had zero to do with mathematics at all.
Like everything is mathematics. So you said he had a speaker. You said he had a speaker, right?
Yes.
Okay. How do you build a speaker without understanding ratios and what the coil is doing and what the length that you need of it and all of that stuff?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about,
probably.
The what?
If you're
I
talking
said
about,
from his eyes, probably.
yeah, if you're talking about perfecting a speaker, if that's what you're talking about, that does not need mathematics either. But the thing is it's called trial and error.
Right. No, 100%. We're not saying it's a different thing. So I'll give you a better example.
I agree with both y'all. I'm not disagreeing with either one of y'all. I think
let-
it takes both things.
Let me ask you one quick question.
Sure,
Why
go
is
ahead.
Why is it that science has almost completely dropped the word hypothesis out of any of their usage in their terms? They always go to theory. They jump over there to theory real quick. Why is that?
I think it depends specifically to what you're talking about, right? You're right. A theory usually is kind of like where a hypothesis graduates. I don't know what you're referring to specifically, but
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's because a hypothesis is a question, and if other scientists, if people don't want you, they don't want to know the answer to it, then they're gonna be mad about it. I don't know. That's just
No, I feel you.
It's like Einstein with his theory of relativity. Well, it's not a theory; it's a hypothesis because it was never proven.
No, it was. Einstein's theory is actually the most proven thing on the planet.
So you can fold time, and you can you get smaller as you move.
Oh
faster.
yeah. GPSs would not work. So GPSs would not work unless we would use an atomic clock and then reset them every single day at midnight. There's a special place that does this every single day. Otherwise, because of time dilation specifically, because of these equations, your GPS would drift every day by almost 5 or 10 feet every single day. So you have to reset.
That's from the movement of the satellites and things like that.
No. It's because of time dilation. So because the satellite is moving much faster than regular objects, so you actually have to correct because of special relativity, and because the things that receiving the signals from the triangulating satellites are on Earth, which is much closer to a body of mass, which slows down time because of general relativity. And you have to correct for both of them. So you have to use both of the equations from general and special relativity to correct both of them in opposite directions. And if you don't do that, and by the way, the precision with which this has to be done is insane. And if you don't do that, your GPSs will not work. So we know for sure that time dilation happens.
Well, how did they talk to a man on the moon then?
What do you mean?
How were they able to talk from the moon to the Earth?
Oh, that's different. That's how long a signal takes to get to you.
Exactly. It all, that's the way it all started. It started with radio waves, and like I said, Einstein's theory of relativity to me is a joke. I mean, people can.
I know, it's so funny.
Try to influence. They kicked him out of Germany because of that, and then he came to the United States. But yeah. Anyway,
this is amazing.
That's just my opinion. I've
right.
never seen time fold, and I've never seen things get smaller the faster they go.
Then it can't be the case. Then you're right.
I was working at a company one time as a mechanic, and it was a shipping and receiving company, major company. Anyway, there was a guy there, and he was trying to put this thing in the back of a truck. He said, "Man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it in there." And I said, "Well, if you believe in Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you go, the smaller it gets." And he said, "No, I don't think I'm going to try that."
So he didn't try that? It would probably work. Oh, man, it would probably work.
So I have a follow-up on that. Like, just because something works doesn't necessarily make it true, though. So because we went to the moon, right? We went to the moon using Newtonian physics, but we know that Newtonian physics is not entirely accurate, or at least compared to Einsteinian worldview of gravity. So it's just because something works.
Do you want to respond, or do you just want to make the statement?
Although I'm making a statement, I think I'm saying that just because something works doesn't necessarily make it true. There could be a future observation that could.
So right, you're right. That's because science never decides what is true; it decides what is likely. And then what is likely more than other things is what you use for that moment, and it's an economical thing. So the reason you use Newton's equations to send rockets, because you don't need Einstein's equations and the degree of accuracy that they describe in order to send a rocket, which is a very big object. So Newtonian physics is good enough to get there. But if you would be sending a probe or a spaceship closer to a black hole, you would not be able to do it with Newtonian physics. So there's things that just describe things more accurately, but science in general is not in the business of telling you what's true. It's telling you what's likely.
So is it possible to get more accurate than Einsteinian?
Absolutely. And that's what people are trying to do all the time.
totally.
Yeah, of course. It's never a done deal.
I have to agree with that somewhat, but then again, sometimes they're way off.
Sure, and that's also part of science.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's ridiculously way off. Halley's Comet it's on a 75-year cycle, and the last time I believe it was in the late '80s, early '90s, it was coming by, and NASA and all the scientists, they went in there and they did their calculations, they did their mathematics. Man, let me tell you, They put the pencil to the paper. They said it was going to come so close to the earth that it was going to shake the earth. Well, needless to say, it was so far away you couldn't hardly see it with your eyes. So, and that was in the 80s or 90s, you know, when mathematics was really top notch.
I always say you can never trust a Haley.
Oh, I never heard that.
Boy, and one more thing, you know, I denied the man on the moon thing, and then one day I found out. I did some research, and I found out that it was true that the men did go to the moon, because it said when the cow jumped over the moon, he came back and said, "Yeah, they're up there." So there's been a man on the moon.
Because the cow told you so.
Oh goodness.
All right, good people. So I'm gonna proceed to the thing. Thank you so much for your input. I appreciate you. Please come back. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your input. Let's
You
see
getting off?
the what.
Are you getting off? You want me to get off?
Hold on. I'm gonna bring on the Rude. No, well, you and I will exchange a couple more words, and then I'll start slowly adjourning. Let's see what the Rude has to say, and then for today, the Rude will be the last person we'll bring on.
Do you have a degree in physics?
I have a little bit of background in physics. Yeah, not enough to call myself a physicist for sure.
What's your background, like mathematics?
No, physics mostly.
Okay.
What's up, the Rude? Oh,
I
well,
could never work for NASA. I mean, it's not that
Can you hear
I'm
me?
not smart enough. It's that if one little thing goes wrong, somebody might die or be in space for 2 years, like the two people that just put up in that shuttle.
well, at least you know your limitation. That's very, very important. Wait, I think the Rude just jumped on. How are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm a.
What's up, Chase? How you doing, brother? Why does it say wave instead of, and then it says this? It's strange. So we have an engineer here who also knows a thing or two about how things are done and built. Chase, do you have enough time to come on, or you're too busy right now? Wait, why is it so?
I understand the way things work, but I didn't do it because
I think we can barely hear you. I don't know why.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Awesome. Yeah. So you have to request Chase. So you have to request, and I can bring you back up. Go ahead, Valerie. In the meanwhile.
I was just saying that my parents wanted me to be an engineer because I understand the way that things work, but I didn't want to do that because I chose a different career path.
Incredible. And again, knowing your own limitation is super important. Here we go.
And I probably would have been good at it, but I didn't want to fail at it because they were expecting me to do great at it.
So very demanding parents.
Yeah, I'm an only child.
Oh, that's my fiance is the same. What's up, Chase? How are you, brother? You're muted.
Hey, Danny, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great, my man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, things are going well. We, I think the last time we spoke, we hadn't moved. We moved out to the country. It's really nice. We're surrounded by lots of nature and trees, and yeah, things are going well, man. Good to connect.
That's
I missed
amazing.
you.
I missed you too, man. So we have I don't know if you heard any of this, but we had some fun conversations about development of science and engineering and things like that. We had wait, what was his name? Guys, do you remember his name? I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. That was here. Anyway, so we had like a fun little back and forth about the general epistemological nature of how science evolves and how mathematics is included in that. So what's interesting is that we were talking a little bit about, for example, he was mentioning the development of the radio originally, right? And he was saying that you didn't really need math to build a lot of these things that were evolved. And my contention was that you can't really build things, or at least not any good versions of things, without knowing some math, because you need to understand measurements and ratios and things like that. Would you? So anybody who doesn't know, Chase is engineer extraordinaire. And so would you say with all your experience that to some degree there's some truth to it, or it's definitely not the case that you can do anything without knowing some math?
You know, it's interesting this you're bringing this up, Dan. I've been for the past 2 days. I've been kind of dipping my toes and watching here there Sir Roger Penrose have a conversation with.
I was just talking about this. Bernardo Kastrup and
the guy's name.
yeah, Bernardo Kastrup and with the guy who developed.
Kastrup, right.
Yeah. We're just talking about that.
Right. Yeah. So, well, very interesting. Yeah, I've been watching that with you. Then I suppose. So I think. Look, I see, and for the audience and those that aren't aware, Sir Roger Penrose is, and I'm fairly certain he's a Nobel laureate anyway. Correct me if that's
He is,
incorrect.
yeah, he
But,
is.
either way, he's very well respected in the scientific community. He penned a theory with Stuart Hameroff on. It was a theory of consciousness. Essentially, it's called orchestrated objective reductionism. And what they theorize is that microtubules, tubulin in the brain specifically, but potentially all microtubulin for that matter, interface with a quantum vibratory field. And this is supported by many others in academia, many recent studies, as a matter of fact.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Did you say quantitative?
Oh, the name of the theory, it's orchestrated objective reductionism. It's shortened by you can just search ORC, ORCH, OR, and it'll pop right up. To make a long story short, anyway, I think mathematics, certainly, we have to use mathematics and basic, what we consider to be fundamental scientific skills to create things. If you want to build a table, you have to take measurements. You have to, if you're handling all the logistics yourself, you got to go out and cut down the tree and figure out how to cut the tree down, and that takes math, and how to cut the tree up, and how to move it, and how to plane it, and how to get the pieces that you want. So, and the same is true for anything. The more complicated the system is, the more math is involved. Look at modern semiconductor technology. You need massive manufacturing facilities to make the basic compounds that go into constructing the printed circuit boards and the various electronic components. So yeah, I think it's necessary, but I do also believe that Kastrup and the other gentlemen in that discussion, along with, of course, the host and Sir Roger Penrose, I hold similar beliefs to them in that consciousness is required, perception is required in order to even be aware of the existence of anything. So it has to be fundamental. And Danny, I know I shared with you before, there are experiences that we've had that are comparable in nature, both with and without the use of substances such as N,N-dimethyltryptamine, that further support this position that this is something akin to the idea of a simulation. But I think simulation is, and you briefly touched on this in one of your other lives. I didn't hop on with you on. It's a really basic term. It really kind of fails us in really trying to define what this system is.
The true nature of it. And this is I'm glad you're bringing this up because, oh, by the way, just I think the way you phrase it is perfect, but we should never say the 3 letters on the chat on TikTok, just so they're like flagging things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Oh no, the way you said it was perfect. I'm just making sure that we don't say the other thing. So I'm really happy you bring.
Very well put what you said.
It doesn't. He said the name of the molecule, and TikTok flags things like that. That's all.
Can't
If
say certain things and it's stupid.
I know it is, but it is what it is, and they can actually block the chat because of it, and
Yeah.
it's a shame. So
I'm one of the few people that has never been, whatted on this app. For
Oh.
however reason.
well, welcome.
Morpheus, you don't believe that
But no,
consciousness-
I mean, I'm sorry. That made a lot of sense to me because, I mean, I use math if I'm doing something. If I'm fixing things, I know how to read a tape measure. But mostly, I eyeball things and I don't look at instructions. I just figure it out.
Right, but then like you can use rules of thumb for certain things, but if you wanna, like, you wouldn't want to live in a building or a house that was built just by rules of thumb, right? That you wouldn't feel safe.
Oh no, totally. I agree with you.
So that's really what it comes down to. So eventually, when we figure things out, we have to make things more precise. And obviously, yeah, of course. So, but I do want to strengthen a particular, like a more fundamental point that actually ties directly to this, like the accuracy versus the more esoteric kind of like the feeling of being alive, which is why I'm saying that I'm really happy Chase brought up that conversation, because Penrose's base assumption in that theory was the way that he came to it from a metaphysical perspective was that he saw there's certain mathematical statements like Gödel's incompleteness theorem that basically proves that there's certain mathematical statements that they are true, and yet he can prove mathematically that they cannot be proven by the original assumptions of the truth of that statement. So
What kind of statements though are you talking about?
So it's complicated to explain that with words because you actually have to look at the math. But you just it's kind of like the way they sometimes demonstrate it, which is not exactly that, but they demonstrate this idea by showing you a card and saying, well, if the card says the statement on the back is how does it go? The statement in on the other side is false, and then when you turn it, it's like this statement is true, and
So
then
it has
you
to do with statistics.
it has to do with logic, right? So then just take it from me for now because it's we're going to be here all day. But it's
law of non-contradiction.
the
Law of non-contradiction.
yeah it's basically a logical contradiction, but he showed it mathematically. So the way that he basically did that is that he took a set of numbers and he created he was one of the most genius mathematicians of all time, and he basically took he created a whole linguistic structure that he attached to every set of particular numbers, and then he proved that by going one step at a time logically, you end up in a position where something is true for sure, but you can prove that you cannot prove it mathematically. Now I know it bends your mind, but just accept for now that he did that, okay, just for the sake of argument. So then what Penrose noticed is that, wait a second, now if we can prove mathematically that this cannot be proven mathematically, but with our brains understand that it's true, it proves that whatever consciousness is not a computational system. It's not a computable moment, because something that computationally cannot be proven. And that is the basis of what he basically used. So he deducted that the consciousness has to be something different than computation, which is a very interesting base assumption.
The age-old debate of whether consciousness is an emergent property of the brain or not.
Exactly.
Separate or not.
Yep.
I hold that.
Can you guys hear me?
Worldview.
Yeah, we can hear you, though. You just kind of go in and out.
I came on earlier to actually bring up exactly this. I'm a former neuroscientist. I'm currently a data scientist, and the Or-Gore theory is what I brought up in the chat. I don't know, like maybe a half hour ago.
Oh, okay.
But there's a recent study out that's called something about like the biphoton generation in the myelin sheath. It's from Shanghai University. It's the AO. It is absolutely, it's like the most recent one that goes more in depth about like even to the biochemistry on the molecular level about the vibrational kind of properties of carbon hydro bonds, right? And they demonstrate how, like, through very, very complex math, how these things can be on a quantum level. Physics is not my strength. More,
but that's what vindicated Penrose's theory, right? That study.
From my understanding,
Yeah.
And I was coming out here to ask either of you guys if you're aware of similar studies that have come out that are in the same purview.
What is that study called again? And from Shanghai?
Entangled biphoton generation in the myelin sheath. University of Shanghai, AO, is the cited author.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but
That's so easy to
One at a time, guys. 1 second. Go ahead, Valerie.
I have been trying to get in touch with a neurologist for one of our clients so that we can understand whether or not he is mentally able to make a plea. Do you have any advice on that?
Make a what? Sorry.
A plea. I work for a lawyer.
Okay, a plea. Oh,
Yeah. So
Yeah, no. Can't really help you there.
okay. I just didn't know if you knew what happened with neurology enough to just give me any kind of thing.
I don't know if it's like if he's mentally capable. I think it's more a psychologist thing. No.
Well, we're dealing with a neurologist,
Whoa. Okay. Well,
and they're not answering the phone, and I'm having to do a lot of back work. So I'm sorry.
You're good.
It's taking a lot of work. So my bad.
you're
Go
good.
ahead.
Chase, I think that are you aware of any other studies that are in the same kind of tandem with that study?
I was going to mention, I did come across that study that Darude mentioned. Ryan, nice to meet you. I go by Chase in other circles. But clearly, I mean, he's more inept at processing that than I am right off the bat, it sounds like. But my understanding of that study was, absolutely supporting components of OR. And the other studies that come to mind, just off the top of my head, really focused on what Donald Hoffman is doing right now. I think that the mathematical structures, the four-dimensional mathematical structures that, I've heard about him and his team working through seem really promising. I don't know where those two bodies of work might meet, but I know there are aspects of Hoffman's work and aspects of Penrose and Hameroff's work and the other team in Shanghai that you mentioned, are supporting this model of reality that I've built in my mind based off of my research and experiences as well. Yeah. And I don't know if it's of any value for me to go into any of that, Danny. But
No. Well, first of all, it's always of value because I think that because you have quite a bit of experience with this hands-on. By the way, before we say anything else, I want to say to anybody who actually wants to go into these the stuff that we mentioned, there's a really great YouTube channel by Anton Petrov. He does an episode a day, which is kind of insane. So Anton,
I just want to know what the experience of reality is. That what you said? What that means?
You mean like what does it mean in actual terms for us?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll address this in a moment. I just wanted to say this to the chat because some people maybe their head is twisting and maybe they actually want to understand more. So you can go to Anton Petrov's channel. He does a episode every day, and he definitely had a whole episode about the study. I can't repeat the whole thing, but what Darude said. But what was it, Darude, again?
It's entangled biphoton generation in the myelin sheath.
In the myelin sheath.
University of Shanghai author AO.
AO. Amazing.
What's the quick synopsis?
I'm sorry, Grippy. I was hoping that Darude could include maybe a bottom line, like the conclusions, the findings from that team. Is there kind of a
I love me a bottom line.
It was I could do that. So it's again, it's a lot of complex math. It supports what went earlier talking about Penrose's orchestrated the
thank you,
what is it, the something reduction what was the O again?
No. Go ahead. Sorry, I was continue.
objective reductionism?
Objection reduction. Thank you. Yeah. So it builds off of it, frankly, and it's just going more in depth with tools that we have now to be able to look at a more microcosmic level and to match it up with what's going on a macrocosmic level. Because I'll say this, at the systems level in the brain, when a human goes into different states of mind in the game, and the brain waves can synchronize in gamma wavelength, it's that will be certain areas, and it will be the prefrontal cortex and the cingulate cortex. So you sort of see this pattern emerging of also states of mind and consciousness being defined, altered in a quantifiable, measurable way at systems at a more that macro and molecular with the biochemistry within of what's occurring with these these polarized molecules within the myelin sheath. And it's super fascinating. And again, the implications are, that you would, with everything else we've been talking about. And again, it sounds like Chase and like Danny, like we're kind of on the same wavelength here. In that, the physical might be more of an emergent property of consciousness, which would be more fundamental than vice versa, which is the common school of thought. I'll leave it there.
So can I ask another hopefully quick question?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on, I just had a concussion last week. My brain, I can remember so many things, but I can't remember what I ate 20 minutes ago.
Wait, did you get treatment?
Intracrinial amnesia. That would require a neurologist, which I'm not.
Well, I'm just asking your opinion. I'm not asking a medical opinion. I just wanted to know your opinion on it.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's cool.
Rippy, you
But, I had it. Peace. Yeah, but I'm good. It just
We're very happy.
Not fun.
I bet it's not fun, but seriously, are you okay? Did you actually get it checked, or?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I didn't break my nose. I got a hole in my head. But I'm good.
Okay. So Chase, so I do want to ask you, because we went into some depth about your theories and how you see reality, and you had some pretty, what one would like call first of all some spiritual, but also experiences with actual UFOs and things like that, and you have a very technical mind, and it was really interesting the way that you categorized it and the way that you kind of saw how reality works in the context of the mind giving rise to the physical world. Can you give us just a little bit of a little bit of that outline?
I really want to know about the UFO stuff.
Yeah, I can give you guys a quick kind of summary. So, like Danny said, I'm an engineer. I have a bachelor's in electrical engineering, master's in mechanical engineering. I've studied AI and machine learning. I've worked mostly in the past decade with advanced ground transportation technology, think self-driving car tech. Worked with all the major OEMs, all the people developing self-driving tech. I've worked for some of most of the largest insurance companies and analyzing the tech, some of the largest ground transportation operators, and helping to deploy it and maintain it and operate it and all that stuff.
Dang.
Prior to that, oil and gas and chemical manufacturing. So about 8 years ago, I started, 6 years ago, I started heavily researching the phenomenon. And when I say the phenomenon, I mean UFOs and aliens and ghosts and poltergeist activity and extrasensory perception and experiences people have while taking certain substances or doing certain things like meditation or holistic breath work, you name it. So all that stuff, cryptids, missing 411, all the things, right? And the reason that I started researching all that was because, well, I had a few experiences growing up. Like Danny said, when I was 10, my mother and I were chased down the highway, a dark, desolate Texas highway, by a light in the sky that when it lit up, it was brighter than the sun. Everything was day for as far as the eye could see. When I was 15, I saw a triangular craft really close. I've worked with all the guys. I know Grant Cameron. I know Luis Elizondo. I almost went to work for To the Stars Academy, working with Tom. I almost deployed an expeditionary vehicle with Tom on an Angel Airways tour. Also, almost went on HBO with To the Stars. So lots of things. But in the past 6 or 7 years, I've also had other experiences that led me to question the nature of thought and this concept that thought is local to the brain or the body. Experiences that kind of propelled me toward really trying to understand how we're researching consciousness and how we're attempting to honestly understand things like extrasensory perception and all these anecdotal reports that people have, right? There are millions of people across the world every year for all the recorded history that have had experiences with craft, with entities of all sorts. And if you do the digging, you can find this. And that's why you've got these big people out there, well-known names that study this stuff and talk about it, despite skeptical information or skeptics rather coming forward. So long story short, I've been out of body. I've had the life review experience. I've been on the table under the so-called aliens. I've experienced a lot of that stuff. And this substance that Danny's conducting his experiment and hypothesizing with so far, I hope this is eventually worked into some kind of working theory, and I think it will, because he seems to have gotten really solid results so far. That same substance led me to.
We just lost your audio real quick.
And
sorry.
I
yeah,
mean,
feel like I'm rambling now, Danny.
I totally believe. I think it's dumb to believe that we're the only
can you hear me?
living beings on this, universe. I've never had an extraterrestrial experience. I feel like if I did, the aliens would kick me out real quick.
Well, I think the real conversation now, for me anyway, isn't the aliens or it's perception itself. Like and what part of what Danny's the substance that Danny's using can show you are these different dimensions that you traverse as a perceptual agent, as a consciousness. Reality.
I was just trying to make a dumb joke. Sorry.
Reality is far stranger than anything anybody can possibly fathom.
Yeah.
The code, though, Danny, you asked me if I'd seen the code. I still haven't seen the code. I helped a buddy get set up with a rig and stuff. I might do some experimentation of my own here in the coming week or so, but I thought about that. I have all the equipment here ready to go.
Okay, I'll actually text you either tonight or tomorrow, because we have some interesting things that came up, including a weird equation that came out of the space by somebody who actually also, well, technically they're adjacent to the Department of Defense, and he's just like somebody who kind of works in that like a high position there. So they kind of started investigating too, and then he just had this like weird equation that came to him, and I kind of looked at it and I was like, that's interesting. So now on the surface of it, it seems like it's just describing the potential of some kind of ability to influence physical objects with magnetism, depending on the field they're in, which seems a pretty straightforward physics, to be honest. But I sent it to a friend of mine who's a physicist, and he said, that's interesting. So I'll send it to you. Maybe we'll see what you think.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. And I know you're not very fast and loose with the characters. I think that you and others in the group have tried to document, but I'd be really interested in seeing those maybe after the fact. If you have that, I'm assuming you have that, because I know you mentioned that the characters are most closely resemble. Was it was it Mandarin or Japanese?
It's katakana, yeah, Japanese katakana.
Okay, Japanese. But you also said that there were cardinal numbers that were recognized. Is that correct?
It seems like it from 0 to 5, but it's the closest I can say. It's really difficult. Like you have to see it for yourself to understand. Like there's just no like we just shot another scene 2 days ago, and in it we had like a person who never seen it before, and then same thing. He's just like, yep, sure enough. He's like, yep, that's right there, and that's kind of like the
do this experiment in my house. Like,
yeah.
where can I get that whatever substance you guys are talking
Yeah,
about?
Yeah,
that
let me have some of
that that's a problem because it's classified as pretty illegal at the moment in the country.
it's
Yeah.
not
Can also
correct.
be achieved with transcendental meditation and
I get numbers in my dreams sometimes, not very often, but I'll get like dates of things that happened historically.
So
And
there's
then
actually
when I wake up
a
and
really
Google them, it was a historical event.
there's a growing body of data that I'm following that is tracking precognition in dreams. It seems really promising. If you record your dreams and go back through that journal after some time, I think you'll be surprised at what you find. And that's a part of the study.
And it wasn't just it's not just the date, it's what's happening during that day.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's
That's
possible.
what's crazy about it.
So kind of like yeah, that's interesting. There was this one savant. There was kind of, I'm sure there's a few, but there was this one that got hit with a baseball on one of the sides of the head, and he had this thing where he just could remember the weather in every given date that you give him. Interesting.
Yeah.
That
It's crazy how our brains are. It's crazy.
By the way, just a quick comment to the chat. I see all of you guys. I apologize. We're just like, we're kind of running with the thing, but I see you, Catherine. Thank you for that. We can talk about Jainism. And actually, to what you guys were asking about, Mandalov's Cake says she saw the code without the substance. And I met 2 other women. It's always women for some reason that also said that they could see it without. So it's possible that some women, maybe even some men can see, but I would assume that there's a reason why it's always women. I think women are a little bit more.
Women dream more than men and can.
They're a little bit more
kinda
intuitive, yeah,
predict
more
the future
connected.
More than men, whatever.
Mhm.
However.
I agree.
I was going to ask, Danny, earlier you were talking about a study from the DoD that was related to this, and you said that you're going to send it to Chase. If you could send that to me too, I'd appreciate it. And then Chase, earlier you mentioned just really recently, studies on the precognition during dreaming, which I regularly experience, which again, lends to the idea of consciousness being more of a substrate, not a local. Had similar experiences. I was going to ask of all the things you've talked about, by the way. And I was going to ask, have you heard of Christian Sundberg and how he talks about not pretty much remembering like before life, similar to like what people with NDEs talk about, and you guys come across.
So like he remembers different past lives, basically?
Not just that. The basically consciousness not in this matrix projected reality. So what would be considered from our perspective of linear time before, which is not truly before, but yeah, it would be technically like that's what he says. And he talks about how it's like we have like an option to like choose them, and there's like a probability tree of how everything can play out. How like you see like the branches arborate, and that we see all these like millions of probabilities, and then you choose a life and you go into it, and he talks about it very he gets into a lot of different things.
So it kind of sounds like that that Matthias guy, Matthias something. He was always like he.
Matthias is great.
You know what I'm talking about?
Stefanoff
something. Yeah, he always on the Aubrey Marcus channel. He was showing up there a lot, but I know he was around. So it sounds very similar. Would that be similar to that, Darude?
Yeah, and it's so essentially like also what he talks about is also saying that we purposely are what he calls veiled. So the reason why, hey, well, why don't we all remember this? Why don't we all remember this other place? Well, because it's happening also right now, and the purpose is to be veiled, because this is kind of like it's like playing a game in a simulation for the purposes of apparently consciousness expanding, but it's at a lower frequency than kind of base frequency. So I know, like, we like to think of things, our mind, defaults to thinking of things and spatially and through time. But again, it's we're not in a different place. We also simultaneously like exist there. It's like part of our consciousness, like fractal siphoned off. And this is the avatar in the like matrix reality at this really low vibrational level that was created, and it is an emergent property of consciousness, which, is fucking falls along with the other things that we've talked about. And frankly, would explain a lot of, issues that arise, in looking into like quantum physics and other phenomena.
This is where Hoffman's work comes in. You familiar with Donald Hoffman's work?
Right.
This is what Chase was mentioning. So basically,
Penrose, right? Or no, that's Hammerhoff.
No, Hammerhoff is the one that worked with Penrose.
Right.
No, so what Hoffman did, which is what makes it stand out, is that in the 80s he discovered certain regularities within a game theoretical frame, evolutionary game theoretical frame. He discovered that basically if you run a computational game, a computational model, or like any simulation, in which agents are aware of anything more than the reward functions, they will 100% of the time lose the evolutionary game to any being that is only aware of the reward functions. In other words, if you know too much too soon about the underpinnings of your own, like what gives rise to your reality, you will always have a diminishing return in which you will lose the evolutionary game every time. So he started investigating this, and since the 80s, it's been quite a while. They now developed a whole mathematical framework to talk about consciousness as a central assumption, and then they give you mathematically, they extrapolate through different mathematical games and models that you can actually get the field equations through that. You can get even some string theory equations that they get. So basically they can prove that at least there's a there. Like you can actually start with consciousness and mathematically derive everything, including space-time and everything else that you can possibly imagine. So I would look into that. It's very interesting if you ever heard of it.
That is interesting. I like that. I'll have to look into that.
Chase, there was a comment about you, says maybe Morpheus can elaborate on memory formation. Was there something you mentioned? Maybe I missed it.
I don't recall mentioning that, but I don't mind speaking to it. I would just say, I think Darude might have had a question, or maybe it was an indirect question. But, this nature of the mind, and I was tempted initially when you mentioned mind, Danny, to kind of say, like, we need to define mind. Because many times when you mention mind, I think people might think brain. And from my perspective, I hold the same perspective, at least in this sense, as does Dr. Donald Hoffman, in that there is no brain unless...
There is no brain in what?
Am I losing audio here?
Here and there.
Okay,
Here and there.
You can hear me now.
Yeah.
There's no brain unless you're observing it.
Wait. Toretron Max. Wait, it's way too loud. If you can mute it until you speak.
How's that?
No, you're good. Toretron Max?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, bro.
Can you just mute it until you speak, because we can hear like a weird interference pattern. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Chase.
So no, I hold the same position that Donald Hoffman does, in that I don't think something actually exists in physical space-time until it's observed. In these different dimensions that you mentioned, Darude, traversing through, kind of this concept of the higher self being the super consciousness, being connected to all these various incarnations, all these various experiences. I've experienced that. And I think Danny's experienced that too.
As well.
And I've been
as awareness
in the bodies of other people that I think these are the same experiences people call past lives or future lives or whatever, So I know that that's an aspect of reality because I've lived it. I remember it anyway. But yeah, I think what was the question, Danny? You wanted me to address something in the chat.
Somebody asked if you can address memory formation. Again, I thought I didn't hear you speak about it, but somebody asked. Mandalev's Cakes asked.
Well,
I would
I'm not
like
a
to know about that
neuroscientist.
too, because that's what's happening to me right now after my concussion. I'm having weird memory things.
Yeah, I'm not a neuroscientist. I think Darude is, but I will say that, there are many theories about the brain and how the brain stores memories. I don't think we're even close to really truly understanding that at a medical level. From my experience, memories can exist in limbs. You can have memories in your arms, your legs, your organs. And we see this in the medical industry, in the medical field. We see people inherit memories, emotional memories from the donors of the transplants. When it comes to reincarnation, in my opinion, reincarnation is proven. It's been proven by the University of Virginia and many, many other organizations. for a long
Dean
time.
Radin had some data too.
Yeah. The same thing is true for a lot of other phenomena that many people discredit.
Darude
And it's understandable. I used to be on that side of the fence. I had to prove this stuff to myself through having these experiences. Had I not had the experience,
So could reincarnation just be like your outer body
I
experience?
have a completely different
Someone else's
position
body?
today.
Oh, it just there's a lag. So what were you saying, Grippy? If
Yeah,
reincarnation
so
can be
reincarnation explanation can it be explained by like the outer body experience in someone else's body or something like that?
I think the way that
It's the same consciousness. It's not separate and distinct. It's just another iteration of the same consciousness that is, you have to understand, because it's so counterintuitive, right? Because and it's complex. So it's easy. It's be okay with not grasping or being able to wrap our minds around it. Because frankly, no Homo sapien has the intellect to fully grasp our minds around it. The rule set of this physical observable universe that we're in is limited inherently, and that is intentional. And that's my understanding. And so whatever we say is another life, maybe it's in this physical universe, maybe it isn't. But it's when you say out of body, that's an assumption there. There's an assumption that it is separate and distinct, that you are moving outside instead of being in. But that separation is an illusion inherently.
So I would say
Yeah,
that. So that
I agree with that 100%. The separation is an illusion completely. But that's where this concept of local realism being false plays in, right? I mean, we know in 2022 Nobel Prize, local realism is false. That's what it's telling us. It's pointing to there being no separation, there being no physical space without the observance of that physical space time, right?
the best way I found to actually describe to myself the whole reincarnation in terms of what I'm seeing, which is the computational simulation, and combining some of the religious elements that I do observe in the space, is that if you would imagine God trying to kind of collect all the possible experiences that are possible in existence itself, that's what the souls would be. And the soul, you can think of the soul as like the ultimate consolidating hard drive. So essentially the soul is going through all these experiences in this lifetime. It gets through a certain amount of process in which it kind of gets, it needs defragmentation. So it gets out, it's done. And now it will measure it against all the other types of experiences that all the other souls have had. And then only the ones that are truly, truly unique in their essence are going to be kind of like the consolidation of, okay, this is the core of a new thing that was never experienced before. And that will stay with the soul. And then the rest of it gets stripped away, and then it goes into a new cycle, and it does it again and again and again. So by the end of the process, you get all of these souls arriving with all the possible experiences into this ultimate final kind of like omega moment. And that's how I kind of find it that it would make some sense to me in terms of the computational stuff. Now, obviously, we don't really, this is highly speculative, obviously, right? But it seems to me like it's actually experience is a really good imprint of information, because it contains so much in every single instance of experience that no math can do with this little amount of time. So like your experience right now, instead of like some external device calculating all the possible trajectories of everything, your experience is just boom, this, and then the plant is green, it feels this way, the air is like this. All of these regularities that are in your environment are just imprinted in every instance of your experience. And then if you have an enormous number or an infinite number of these experiences all at once, you don't need all the calculations. you have direct access to what it is in its most essential component, and that's what I feel experience is.
I like that. I like the way you explained it.
Okay, well, guys, listen. This is I've never done actually like a live chat like this. We should probably do this once a week. This is a lot of fun. We have like all kinds of ideas running
Also,
around.
Chase, I added you. If you don't mind, if you could just add me back too.
Yeah, not a problem. And agreed, Danny. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad that you came. I'm gonna text you with some of the stuff, and Darude, just send me a DM, and I'll be able to say we will be able to chat a little further from there.
So the real quick, the place I'm coming from is that when I talk to, so I am also religious. I believe in God. Or when we have these discussions with, like, let's say, an atheist or agnostic, all of these questions do come up. Like they are really tied to this idea that the consciousness is an emergent property of the brain, but that has been kind of like just assume that that sounds circular too. Like you still need the consciousness to know what the brain is, right? So it's a kind of circular logic in that sense. And also your intentionality, like is it the bosons and fermions in your brain that's making you make decisions, right? So all of these things kind of like, I mean, I'm fascinated by what you guys have to say and all that research that kind of proves that it's the mind that causes the physical reality.
Look, I think, Grippy, when it comes to
You cut off.
I was an anti-theist for a long time. Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, when it comes to religion, I was an atheist. I was an anti-theist for a long time, I'm well read on Judeo-Christianity, on Buddhism, on various other religions and belief systems. I think when it comes to spirituality in general, where I am anyway, is everything combined is the higher system. You call it whatever you want. You call it God, you call it source. You can respect it however you want to. Part of the experience, right? My assumption is, like Danny said, or maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but from my perspective, everything is about experience itself. So, when it comes to like being moral, if there's a question of morality at all, there are scientific studies that absolutely prove that humans are moral from birth. You don't have to, and from my perspective, respectfully, you don't have to believe in a higher power in order to be a good person. So that's one aspect of religion, right? The other is, how do we explain where we come from or what we are? And I think Danny might have touched on this before, and forgive me, Danny, if that's the case, but I believe that the complete answer to that question isn't something you're going to get while you're experiencing this. But as soon as you step out of the body, whether that's through physical, normal, healthy death, or that's through a near-death experience, or through meditation, or any other tool that you might utilize, however you find that moment, like you'll have this experience at some point in your life or after, in which you're out of the body and you see the experience holistically, and you're able to go back through it in ways that I'm sure you can try to imagine, but magical ways, right? A completely different perceptual experience. And you can choose to have all these other, or maybe that's just a part of what you are, is having all these various experiences. But I know that there are billions, and maybe trillions, maybe more, sextillion number of experiences that we have as conscious agents. I believe that there are truths buried in all of the religious texts. Ultimately, everybody's trying to answer the same questions. What are we? Where are we? Why are we? Those are the basic.
Where are we going after death?
Everybody is always trying to answer. And so for that reason and that reason alone, where are we going after death?
That was a big jump.
The other
That
side,
line was-
another plane of existence,
So
another perceptual dimension.
just a
Yeah,
quick,
I'll
I
stop
want to,
rambling. This is a lot of fun.
I want to bring Mariam. Is that how you pronounce it?
Danny, I might have to jump. I'm
Oh,
sorry about that.
Oh, okay. No worries, brother. Is it?
Yes, I really appreciated you're the reason why I wanted to get on here. But if you have to jump, please.
Oh, I can hang on for a couple more minutes. No, that's
Okay.
okay.
Okay, yeah. So yes, Mariam. My name is Mariam.
Pleasure.
I truly do believe in the same concept. Energy is never destroyed, right? Energy is energy, and that is never destroyed without the universe. Throughout the universe, energy is never destroyed. And I felt that many times through my deceased loved ones. I'm not a spiritual person. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen a specter or anything of that sort of sense. But what I have felt is that when my family, my loved ones were deceased, I have felt energy. And not only through me, but through all else that I've seen in my life. Does that make sense? Sorry, I don't want to seem too a little bit woo-woo.
Hey.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's people don't cease to exist. The energy goes somewhere. Who knows where, and who knows to what, and who knows to how much, to where, whatever. The thing is that I was raised Muslim and I am Muslim. But what I would like to say is that just like Morpheus said, whoever you
Cosmo.
worship or whatever higher being you worship, I don't think that you should limit yourself to that religious. Sorry.
Hey, no, I follow what you're saying, and it reminded me of a thought I had when I was saying before you hopped on, and that was that one of the big revelations from studying all of these experiences.
Oh, Morpheus, you cut out a little bit.
He keeps coming.
That can you guys hear me?
I'm gonna mute myself.
I don't
Can you
think it's you. Yeah, you're just coming in and
okay.
out, but you go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just saying one of the big revelations in studying all of these anecdotal reports, which is something I'm doing, is that you see that what people believe in leads to experiences that support those beliefs. Now, that doesn't mean, maybe off the cuff, you might assume, well, that means that we're making this up in our head. But that's not what that means. What it means is your thoughts are literally creating reality. Or you could look at it in another way, that you're tapping into this field of thought and accessing components of it. I think that all of these belief systems, if you hold them tightly enough, can lead to having experiences that make you believe that these belief systems are correct. And in those moments, because you're having those experiences, they absolutely are correct. However, I believe as well that after you've been on the other side for a little bit of time, and I don't know how to define what that is, but a little bit of time, you realize that you can choose to believe anything that you want and manifest that reality or tap into that field and have that existence or that experience, which I believe is what we're doing right now, or something like that. But I'll also say that I could have all this wrong, but I do know that these experiences that people have are very real because I've had them myself. And I'm also currently in this process of researching all these studies, although it's going slower than I would have expected. But we're amassing the largest aggregated database of experiencer reports and studies, academic studies, scientific studies, all the media that's related to all these phenomenons. on the world's largest aggregated database, Paradox. That's discoverparadocs.com. Not to put a plug in, but
You can put a plug in. There's no problem.
We're not asking for any money, so yeah, not yet anyway.
Amazing. Mariam, does that address what you were?
Yeah, it really does, because I don't want to live in a world where we're all against each other. I want to live in a world where there is all roads to a higher power and a higher being. You know, I keep saying, sorry, I'm from Minnesota. So I grew up Muslim, and we were taught about people of the book, and people of the book are very specific people, and that opens up my faith. Like, that opens up my understanding to many different types of people. And I don't think it stops there. I don't think it stops from 1, 2, 3 groups of people. In Islam, it's the Muslims, it's the Jews, it's the Christians, and then there's another group of people. I'm so sorry, I'm not that educated to understand. Forgive me. But beyond that, I would like to think that everybody has a pathway towards a higher being. Everybody is, if they're Hindus, then they have their pathway towards higher beings. And if they're atheists, then they have their pathway towards something that they believe in, whatever that may be. Sorry.
No, we're listening. We're listening very carefully. I think it's just everybody agrees. I would think it sounds like it makes perfect sense that we were talking about this the other day. Actually, I think yesterday, where I said that it would make sense to me that however the divine communicates to all the creation, it would be in a way that is not based on a particular of a story. Let's say it would be through any ways or means that even if somebody is born, and is raised by wolves, still there's something in their experience that allows them to feel or understand whatever that is, so they can come to some understandings and then trajectories that will bring them closer to that.
Right. And to me, it's more about a moral philosophy, how to be kinder to each other, how to treat each other, how to live in a society amongst other people. It's not truly, of course, there's a bit about, worshiping a higher power to some people, but to other people, it's mostly about living in a society and living within a moral and virtuous philosophy. You treat people well, then you will be treated well. You don't do horrible things to people, then that's the way that you will not be treated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, karma. It's kind of like karma, only instant karma, and then combined with collective karma. I'm pretty sure that rule just sounds like the golden rule essentially denotes the idea of karma.
Yeah.
Really, it's what it is, right?
All of these religions act as a moral compass for you to behave in a certain way where you are taking care of your neighbor or looking out for other people and ensuring that even you're good and then your neighbor's good. Like, if you're good, then your neighbor's good.
Absolutely.
Right. But these should be common human expressions. That cliche saying, "We're all expressions of God," or various phrases that mean the same thing essentially, are true. And I know these experiences that we have that we can't recall having right now, or some of us can recall a couple of them maybe, are representative of that. Because look, conflict, misunderstanding, all of these things can be explained thoroughly through varying degrees of perception, right? And when you can see through the eyes, as so many near-death experiencers report, having the capacity to do in those moments, reviewing prior lives, it completely resolves the conflict. You completely understand what was happening, why it was happening, and essentially the love behind it, the passion behind it. So, you know, I mean, but again, I think these things need to be talked about for those that aren't kind to each other and can't empathize with each other. But I think we're all in good company here. I think that all of us.
I might have a slightly different view on this, but before I talk about that, I wanted to ask you, Chase. Have you heard of Rosemary Ellen Guiley? She's someone who did like extensive research on shadow people and jinns. I think she did research for like 30 years or something. She passed away now. Her name is Rosemary Ellen Guiley. She has some YouTube videos on how she like really talks about in detail of all these experiences people have had of shadow people, right, and what we call as jinns in Islamic theology. In Christianity, I think they call them demons.
Right. Yeah, I'm not familiar with her work specifically, but I'm sure it's in the. I'm fairly certain it's in the database. But I have reviewed case studies that touch on the same kind of entities or experiences that people report having. You know,
have you seen shadow people before?
Sorry, Chase. Let me just say something here. Yeah, there's jinns. What is your point? What's your point about jinns?
Grippy, that question is for you.
Oh no,
Sorry, can you guys not hear me?
Yeah. He just he wasn't responding. Yeah, we could hear you.
No,
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't making any point. I was asking Chase if he's heard of Rosemary.
But what is your point about jinns and jinni?
The point is that I was just asking him a question if he's heard of it. I do believe they exist.
So do I.
Yeah, I think that the question is more, look, when it comes to any kind of entities, I think anything that can be imagined can be experienced. So, you know, if someone's focused on studying anything, and they focus their thoughts enough on that something, I think that you can have an experience with it. Of course, people have what they perceive to be, and I'm not suggesting that all experiences with any entities are either negative or positive. And of course, that's completely subjective to the individual, right? What is negative and what is positive. That's not an objective kind of thing. But there are people that talk about having negative experiences. I think a lot of these are caused due to focusing on the negative. I know a demonologist relatively well, and he studies a lot of the same things in the alien abduction phenomenon, and that I have, and I think I literally think this reality that we have is created by our feelings and our thoughts, and the more in tune we are with our feelings and thoughts, the more we're able to kind of conduct it. One of the considerations, though, is that it's a co-created reality, right? We all share this space. Miriam, myself, Danny, Darude, forgive me, I forgot your first name, Darude, and
Brian, it's okay.
Brian. So there are some aspects to that limit our ability as Chase, as Danny, as Miriam to pull into creation a purple dragon in the front yard, right? I believe that purple dragons exist somewhere, but the likelihood of seeing one outside is really, really low. But then again, the likelihood of seeing an alien spacecraft outside is really low, and it's happened to me. So who knows? I don't know.
Say we create thought, our thoughts create reality.
Sorry.
Are you saying saying
What?
that physical world, let's say the moon, right? The moon exists independent of our subjective experience of the moon.
No.
Right? You're not saying that we are creating the existence of the moon.
So,
Yes.
So
That's
he-
exactly what I said.
so
I'm
he-
saying that it's scientifically proven that we're creating the existence of the moon, or at the very least, I'm saying that we're creating the features that we observe on the moon when we look at the moon.
So let's say if all 8 billion people were disappeared from this planet,
Right. So you know
the moon would still be there.
the common question is, does a tree make a sound in the forest if it falls down? And the answer is only if there's an observer. But here's the trick: the tree is also observing itself, so of course it's going to make a sound. But if a tree wasn't observing itself and fell in a forest and there were no other observers, then theoretically it wouldn't make a sound. But you have to define what an observer is.
Guys, I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm
go
so
ahead.
sorry to cut you off. So is this a group that thinks the moon exists or no?
I don't think we there's nothing that this. Well, I don't think that this, if you're talking about the chat, we have a lot of opinions about a lot of things. If I may offer just a very quick, maybe middle ground in between them. So in the context of the way that Bernardo Kastrup is outlining idealism, I think that's the most helpful view, Grippy, that it is, so in that model, the mind is fundamental. It is the fundamental thing. And it is not the same as to say that there is mind in the universe. No, the universe is a mind. It is mind. And then you can talk about regularities in the mind space that aggregate, if they're insistent enough, let's call them, then they aggregate to what we would call the laws of physics. But they're essentially a third person perspective from a boundary of smaller bubbles of mind inside the universal mind, just like your brain is a third person perspective of what the mind looks like from the outside. If looked from the outside, the universe is what the universal mind looks like from a third person perspective. And in that sense, you can talk about the moon not actually being there when you're not looking, because the experience of the moon is what gives it that quality that you call the moon. It is some kind of a thing. So just to be clear, it is some kind of a thing in the totality of things, yes. But it wouldn't make any sense to ask what that thing really is without an observer giving it some kind of a tangible reality of actually existing. And just to tie that point to something a little bit more concrete, this is a study that they did with people with multiple personalities, which was very interesting. And they discovered that in some cases, people that, let's say they have like 5 alters, like 5 different personalities, they discovered that sometimes when they dream, you ask later the alter, they're called alters, like the different personalities. When you ask them separately when they are present about that dream, they all dreamt that dream and they all talked about each other in the dream, but it's the same person. So this was studied. So this actually happened. So doesn't it sound exactly the situation that we're in?
Oh, I'm sorry, host.
Sure.
Danny.
Yeah.
Danny, we know the moon exists. We know the moon is there.
Right.
We know the moon exists, don't we?
Right. So just to clarify something, nobody is arguing, or at least I'm not arguing, that there's not something that exists even when your lights are out. But the actual, what you call the moon, that thing. So if are you familiar? I don't want to throw you into all kinds of rabbit holes, but
waveform function and collapse. Talk about the waveform.
No. I think that will be a little bit misleading to what I'm trying to say. It is, because I take more the many worlds interpretation than the Copenhagen interpretation. But I want to drive a different point home. I'm not trying to take you on rabbit holes. I just want to know point of reference to know if you're familiar at all. Are you familiar with any of Donald Hoffman's work or anything of Bernardo Kastrup is talking about at all, or no?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So so Donald Hoffman is, I think he's an evolutionary biologist, but he works now with mathematicians and physicists because he discovered something very interesting from a mathematical perspective. He discovered that
I'm not, and sorry, just for the chat,
Sure.
I'm not unfamiliar with mathematicians and physicists.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah. No. But the point. I'm trying to drive a particular point home, and if you're familiar with, if you're familiar with the research, that it actually just makes it easier. That's all. But I'm gonna explain it to you in the terms that
I was a kindergartner. Please do.
I don't know where you're getting that from. I will explain it to you the way.
I'm saying explain it to me as if I was a kindergartner.
Oh, you want me to explain it as a kindergartner? Okay.
Yes, I'm unfamiliar at all.
Sure. So, oh no, I thought that you're saying that as like I'm disrespecting you or something. No. Okay. So
Guys,
basically,
I'm sorry, I've got to jump. But
Okay.
Danny, Miriam, Darude, I've forgotten your name again. I'll get it right when I get your email.
Hey, Dan.
Godspeed.
Dan, guys, it's been fun. I'll connect.
See you,
connect
Chase.
again.
Paradox.
so and I'll tie with this point, and I'll let you guys to chat a little bit more while I think the puppy. Oh man, you okay? Yeah. Okay, so in short, what you discovered is that, and you can watch like YouTube videos online if you want on Donald Hoffman and exactly how they get there. He gets into the specifics.
Of course, I don't want to waste your time if I'm like just on here wasting people's time. I'm sorry.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just saying that the details might bore you right now, but if you want to know more, you can probably look at the details.
Yeah.
But the overview is they discuss and they prove it mathematically, which doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but there's validity there, that the chances that we see what reality actually is, like at bottom, truly, they're close. Well, he would argue that it's zero. I would say he's saying that it's asymptotic, close to zero. Because this is what I was mentioning before, they basically ran a simulation in which they tried to see what would happen to an agent that is aware of the underpinnings of the environment that gave rise to it. So if you're aware of too many elements that actually gave rise to what you are, what they discovered is that 100% of the time you will lose the evolutionary game to any agent that is only aware of reward functions. In other words, what you need to survive. So like, in our space is like 3-dimensional space, what you need to eat.
So if you're
So go ahead.
if you're aware of what made you what you are, then you would be unaware of what would give you gain to be evolutionary.
No, you would just lose the evolutionary competition to all the other agents that are not aware of that, and they're just aware of how to get food, basically.
Okay.
So then, because of that, if that's the case, and if you can prove that, then it will follow that the chances that we are aware of what reality really is at bottom is basically zero. And he equates what we see here as a 3-dimensional space, and that includes, by the way, the entire universe, as basically like a desktop. It's like it's the folder on the desktop that you call physical objects. And the confusion there, he always says, is not that it's not fake. It's an actual thing. It's a function of a sort, but it's not real in the sense of it's not the thing that is actually giving rise to it. So, for example, he gives an example. So he says, for example, if I write a book, right, and the book is stored on my computer, I know that if I click on this folder, I know that the actual book is not in there. Like I know that this is some kind of a representation my screen is doing. I get that. But nevertheless, I'm not going to drag the folder into the trash bin because a lot of actual work is going to go to waste, right? So that's essentially what he's saying. But the real reality in this analogy would be equivalent to everything that's going on in the computer itself. So it's going to be the logic gates and all the crazy stuff that is happening to give rise to what we see as computation. But notice that thing looks nothing like what you see on the desktop, right? So in that sense, he's saying, imagine trying to send an email by flipping on and off all the logic gates inside the computer, right? It makes you see, it's like it makes no sense. You need some kind of a representation, right? And that's what is meant by the moon is not there when you're not looking. It's a representation on the screen, but the real reality is a very, very different thing.
Oh my goodness gracious, God Almighty.
But I kind of understand that. Yeah. So you still the book so are you saying the book in the desktop is still referencing an actual book outside?
Referencing something real, but that real thing is so unlike what you see. So it's not even that it's kind of like, well, your eyes are kind of overlaying a color, but really there's atoms that are arranged like another person out there. He's saying, no, they're not. The representation is so orthogonal and different than what you're seeing that it doesn't make sense to even call it the same thing.
Yeah, I understand what your point is. And initially, remember we we started this off by that matrix example of how we are in the matrix. So my point was that it's useful enough. The utility of the matrix would still make sense to us, because if our beliefs and actions and motivations have a consequence within that matrix, then it's real enough for us, right? It's real enough for us if, let's say, externally there is a God, and we live in this matrix created by God, but our actions and beliefs have a consequence. So I mean, it's as real as it could get. Is just that evolutionary gain example that you gave, is that we are motivated by maximizing happiness and minimizing pain, right?
Utilitarian stance, but we don't know that, right? The point of the game within it, because by definition, paradoxically, I guess we're limited by the rule set of whatever this is. So again, like Danny was saying, like if you are a file within a folder, there is no way possible for you to understand the complexities of the hardware and the coding and everything that works within the computer that gave rise to the software itself.
And a really good example that Bernardo Kastrup uses is, I think it's a really good illustration of this. He's saying that all the physicists in the world, the smartest people that kind of work on like the most complex things in physics, mainstream physics, they're kind of like, so like if you take, like kids who like professional video game players and they make millions of dollars just playing video games, right? But the physicists are kind of like the kids playing the video game because they learn how to play the game better and better and better. But the kids that are playing the video game so well have no idea. Don't have the first concept of the electrical and all the software engineering that went into actually creating the games, which is a very different kind of thing. And that is essentially the difference here. And that is what is being claimed by these like, more kind of like seemingly crazy out there ideas, but they're now starting to being tied to something, to very concrete things that we can potentially even do something with. Oh, and before I forget, because I keep forgetting it, by the way, Mariam, to what you said before, something a little bit more on like just the fun side that is actually good for the soul. I don't know. Have you ever seen the egg?
What is it? The chicken before the egg, or what?
No. If you go to YouTube, just do the egg, you will see like this little cartoon pop up. It's a really cool little. It's a short story based on Andy Weir. It's a short story by Andy Weir, but it's on YouTube. You will most likely find it's a weird name. It's a German channel called Kurzgesagt. But if you just do the egg, it will for sure find it. You'll see like a little cartoon. I highly recommend it because it's a really nice kind of like cute little frame around what potentially might be going on. And it's a very beautiful.
And I do, these conversations really like push my mind along because I do study philosophy. So I like these philosophical angles of different things outside of classical philosophy, and has anybody in here in this panel taken a philosophy class? It's Socrates, it's Plato, it's it's Sartre and Kant and every other guy who died many, many years ago. So I would love to pick the mind of somebody else and I feel like this is a philosophy channel. Sorry guys.
Socrates said, all I know is I know nothing. But how did he know that?
Sorry, what?
Socrates said, all that I know is I know nothing. But how did he know that?
That's the only thing he knows.
Didn't. It was Plato who wrote all of his writings.
So you basically said it about him. No, I think it was like I always say that actually. I always say it was kind of like a cheeky virtue signaling move right before he perished. But I mean, obviously he knew something, right? And that would be a more accurate statement. But I think what he was delivering is that I understand that there's so much more to know that in comparison, what I know is nothing. But that would be a mouthful.
Egg that you're referring to, is that the egg theory?
They call it in many different ways, but again, it originated with a short story by Andy Weir. It doesn't really matter. You can either read the story or watch like whatever.
So if I Google an egg and I see a chicken laying an egg, I can come back here and blame
You're gonna be very angry. Okay.
I'm gonna be so peed off. All right.
It's
I'm
the
gonna come
it's
back
the
here. You, Darude, and who's Grippy? You, Darude, and Grippy. We're all fighting.
there you go. So Alisa put it right for you right there on the in the chat. The egg by Kurs
Oh,
Gizem.
egg by
Whatever this is, yeah.
Wait, what does that say? How do you pronounce that?
Kurzgesagt. It means in a nutshell in German. They do a lot of like kind of like educational stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Go ahead.
One last thing about the double slit experiment. Is that the same thing going on with the observer effect?
Yeah, it's a yeah. So the double slit is very often misunderstood. The original double slit does not automatically mean that a person observer actually influencing it. It's a photon detector that does that, which is a big distinction. However, Dean Radin in 2012, and I think they replicated it in 2018 and 2016 and 18. They did a double slit experiment specifically designed to see if a conscious agent can actually collapse the wave. And what they found is very interesting. So if you Google Dean Radin, Dean and Radin, I think it's just Radin, double slit experiment. You'll see the version they did.
So the wave does not. Still in the initial experiment, the wave still does not know if it's a photon detector or an actual human being.
No, it does. So like in the original experiment, what the weird part is that if you have a photon detector and it's present but it's off, somehow it knows that you don't have a way to know. Somehow it knows you don't have a way to know. That's the best way to describe the weirdness. But I honestly think that actually, so in my mind, the best way I found to explain it to myself, it's not that it's like a particle and a wave and all that stuff. It's that it is definitely a wave. It's just that the wave is, moving through all the possible worlds. And then when you make a measurement, the decoherence actually means there's a little bloop where you are and it becomes part of your world. But the wave is a totality of the wave knows to behave accordingly because it transfers information throughout. Now, obviously, when you actually look at the details, and this is something that Richard Feynman spoke about a lot, is that certain things you just have to go like, okay, well, unless we have a way to probe into that multidimensional space, for the time being, we're stuck with just kind of accepting that that's the case, which of course is unsatisfactory. But that's the only thing we can say with any amount of certainty. And that would be the difference, by the way, to Mariam's point, the difference between a philosophical conversation and a scientific conversation. In a physics conversation, you won't be able to be as loosey-goosey with these terms. You know what I mean? You're just going to have to kind of accept.
And I'm sorry, Grippy, to interrupt you. I'm so happy to have been on this panel. I'm so happy for you, Danny, to put me on here. Darude and Grippy, thank you so much. I'm dropping off here. It's time for bed. So thank you so much.
Have a good night.
I'll be back soon.
And thank you so much for being a part of it. And guys, I'm actually also gonna jump off because I have a little puppy here who is already peeing all over the house. I gotta take him outside. Yeah.
Hey, before you go,
yeah.
Chase mentioned a domain website called like Paradox, like DOCS.
I
know the site.
I don't, but he will tell you. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Appreciate it.
See you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Much love. See you everybody tomorrow.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. See you, YouTube.